Alrighty, guys, good evening. Happy fucking Tuesdays, guys. Hope you guys are wonderful evening so far, guys. Tonight we're going to be doing a podcast. Oh, no! We're going to be doing a podcast tonight, guys, and covering the Starship 6 launch. And apparently there's some new congressional testimony from, I believe, Arrow on UAPs, which we're also going to be taking a look at, which is actually kind of ridiculous because it's been like a week. Normally it's on like a 6 months or a year-long release schedule. It's not long, so we're going to be covering that, which is basically, I didn't look at it yet, but it's actually kind of difficult finding it, to be perfectly honest. Like there's a couple article snippets written about it, but no one's actually, like the video itself was difficult to find, which is kind of weird. But anyways, basically, from what I understand, it's just more of the same, which is extraterrestrials don't exist, or we don't have evidence of extraterrestrials, etc., etc. There's more to it, which we're going to take a look at in a second, but basically, I think it's basically your typical canned release statement, so probably not anything interesting going on there. However, I do want to take a look at Starship 6. We're going to probably be fast-forwarding through a lot of the launch, or ish, because normally they're about a 2-hour-long segment, but I think Starship's enough of, I don't cover like the other launches, is interesting enough that it's worth watching. The finding videos on our this, and then we got to go to the fucking video on X. There we go. It's kind of a pain finding all this, so like that.
With propulsion and integration. And if you're a hands-on tech, we're looking for integration technicians. We're
gonna fast through parts of this, but we'll look at the interesting parts.
A starship every 8 hours, and to do that, we need builders.
No.
Yeah, we're definitely gonna need a lot of builders to get that down to just 8 hours.
Potentially, right? Yeah. Next year, I think they plan on having like a launch every 2 weeks, I believe it is, and the cadence of launches are actually going to accelerate extremely fast. Good evening, Angry. Stream on YouTube is sideways. YouTube, for some reason, recommended you my mobile stream. I have both a desktop and a mobile stream, which is one's vertical. For mobile, if you click on my username, you can find both streams that operate in tandem on my profile. So, for some reason, YouTube recommended you my mobile stream instead of my normal desktop stream. Don't know why, but that's the way YouTube works. So, I have both.
Starship features 2 major parts, the ship,
and we're going to take a look at Starship, guys, and then we're also going to cover the UAP report, which should be short. Most of this is going to be the launch, which, as I mentioned before, we're going to pass through a lot of this.
Flights include everything on the booster, and the tower checks out after launch.
I'm going to get my coffee, guys, and take a look at this. There's definitely kind of like a lull in between two, which we'll fast forward through to as well. Yeah.
A lot of things have to go right in order to
bam, bam. Thank you, ma'am.
So if all criteria is met, we will attempt to catch, but there is a chance that we may not. Either way, we'll be getting tons of in-flight data, which is extremely valuable.
Exactly.
Okay, I'm going to grab my coffee, guys, 1 second.
Pretty epic, though. So, like you, we'll be keeping our hopes high to see another one this afternoon. Now, Dan, you got to see it in person last time. Are you mentally prepared for a possible round 2?
I mean, probably not. That was pretty hands down the coolest thing I've ever seen, and the fact that we're going to do that every time now breaks my brain a little bit, but it was absolutely incredible. One of the unique aspects with Super Heavy coming back is it does generate a sonic boom. This is something commonly associated with reusable spacecraft. It's coming in faster than the speed of sound and then slowing down. It creates that pressure wave that builds up, and then when it reaches you on the ground, that rapid change in pressure is that quick thunderclap sound that you hear. Now, generally, the only effect is that thunderclap sound, but if you're not expecting it, it's definitely going to get your attention, and we were able to hear it last time. The impact of, or how loud it is, changes pretty dramatically. And in this video, you can see as we were descending, and there was kind of that quick triple pop that you heard. Now that was picked up from closer to the pad. Most people at our distance and further away, you're only going to hear one or two as they're happening kind of so on top of each other that it might just sound like one big bang. But as I said, that's something that's only associated with spacecraft being reused. We hear it with Falcon 9. We heard it during Shuttle.
Already.
And looking forward to hopefully hearing it today. Just a quick status check, though. We're about 85%
let's
full
fast
on
forward
ship,
through most of this.
2/3 of the way full on booster, continuing to count down.
And when the time comes to land on the moon,
And both there, at that point, basically up until T-minus 40 seconds, all aborts are just holds. This would allow the team to wait for final checkouts to assess propellant levels, engines, avionics, vehicle pressurization, range, weather. Occasionally we've had shrimp boats lingering in the past, but that doesn't sound like that is the case today.
yeah, not today. No shrimp boats, which is great. Everything so far is looking good. We're getting really
Hey, those are
excited.
fueling
here,
levels
just a
on the
few
left.
minutes away. We're going to go back, send it over to Dan in Starbase. How's it going, Dan?
Coverage much better, by the
It
way.
is
We watched the
still
first Starship
going
launch,
great, just
and
coming up
coverage
on
was
about
pretty
3.5
poor,
minutes
despite how
away, so
big
we
of a
should
deal
be
it is.
done with our
Because
prep load ship
like
momentarily,
media coverage
and
or
then
their
30
own
seconds
personal
later, we'll close on
broadcasting
booster.
is actually just like a
Our
super
flight
small
control
portion of their
team
budget,
on
right?
board, or
Takes
in
almost
the
nothing,
building
but
just
it
behind me. Not on
garners
board,
a lot
someone I
of
wish they were on board.
eyeballs,
Flight
right?
control team
And
in the
interest,
building behind me,
which is
they're
what you
gonna
want.
have a lot of work to do right after we lift off, as we still have a lot of manual checks that happen on the tower prior to the flight director, who's going to be Tristan Pierce again today, giving a manual command to bring the booster back to the launch site. And the tower did just incredibly well on the last flight. We didn't lose any of our required redundancy for a catch, so we're hoping to see that again today. A lot of the team
Had a catch on the last one,
really
which was for
putting
the
arm
lower
around the
booster.
tower, making all of those things work. Played a
Just
huge
the
role in
booster, I
making that
guess?
catch possible, and looking forward to hopefully seeing that happen again. And of course, sending our first payload to space. You can see the banana. It's very tightly secured, but I assure you it does have some room to float around. So once we're in a zero gravity environment, we should see our first Starship zero gravity indicator putting on a little bit of a show. And that's looking right in. That's where we're going to have Starlinks. That's our PEZ deployer. So getting its ride to space.
Yeah.
So
No Corvette this
coming
time.
up in about 2.5 minutes, we are closing out on all of our prop load. Yep, just heard that our fill drains are starting to close, so that means we're no longer going to be floating
Second one, guys,
propellant
they're
into
multiplying.
the booster and the ship. We're going to do what's called
Kind of ridiculous how much of a
pushbacks.
swampland
So all
that
of
is.
propellant in the ground systems is going to get pushed back to the tanks, clear out everything around the pad right before we light those 33 engines and take off. Just quick reminder, you're going to see fire start at the bottom. You're going to see the deflector start at about 10 seconds before launch. Lots of water to help dissipate all that heat, all that sound.
Fuel
then the
quality still
engines
kind of
starting
poop
up
on
in
X.
3 different groups.
Excuse me,
And then
Twitter.
about a second after T0, we should see liftoff. About 2.5 minutes into the flight, a little bit longer, we'll see hot staging, and that's when we're going to be listening really close on those loops to see if we're going to be bringing the booster back for a catch today. Do always want to caution, it's never a guarantee. We've done this once. We'll see if we do it again. We're only going to do it if the booster and the tower are looking really good before we attempt to bring it back here. But coming up on a minute, not tracking any holds on the board right now. So as long as we don't have any
Like
last
football,
second
guys,
things,
sometimes
we
they can
do
pause
have
for
it.
15 minutes. So. Yay!
All right, flight director just confirmed T-minus.
Get a
1
bonus
minute.
every time I cheer. Yay!
Key moment to look at in 10 seconds, that T-minus 40. And we flew right through that.
Flight directors go for launch.
All right, we're now T-minus 20 seconds until liftoff of Starship Flight 6. This will mark our second attempt to catch the Super Heavy booster at the
I thought this time they're
tower.
supposed to be catching the upper stage.
9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Desync! Hey! It's kind of weird, guys. Imagine this only for fucking the Saturn V, but that was fucking 50 years ago. Yeah. Oh, jeez. Where would we be if the Saturn program wasn't canceled, guys?
Vehicle is pitching down.
By the way, that isn't to say this isn't impressive, because this most definitely is impressive. However, we basically took a 50-year vacation from space travel, or space flight, which is pretty insane if you think about it.
Booster and ship, avionics, power, and telemetry nominal.
Fine cigarette.
All right, we're just a little over a minute
maximum
into flight.
dynamic pressure.
We're about 6 miles away, so all the sound's still hitting us here. Hearing good call-outs that
In kilometers, guys. Why is it in kilometers?
Flying straight and true. We do see all 33 Raptor engines lit up on telemetry screens. At this point, we've passed through that point of maximum aerodynamic pressure that
Go for
as long as we don't have any last-second things, which chemo.
To catch the super.
7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Kind of amazing how they didn't think to add the water deluge system to it the first time they made it. They didn't have a flame diverter either.
Oh, it's most engines. Call-outs that 6 miles away, so all the sound's still hitting us here. Hearing good call-outs that power telemetry nominal. That's flying straight and true. We do see all 33 Raptor engines lit up on telemetry screens. At this point, we've passed through that point of maximum aerodynamic pressure, that max Q. Now, coming up in just a little over a minute from now is going to be hot staging. So we're going to see the 6 engines on the ship ignite while still attached to the booster. Just before that, we'll see all but 3 center engines on the booster shut down. In what we call MECO, it's most engines cut off instead of main engine. And so while we continue to watch it go up, a lot of our flight controllers looking at all the systems around the tower. Again, we have to send a manual command. Just about 30 seconds away from hot staging.
Kind of ridiculous how you can't see the upper stage anymore, or the rocket. Makes you wonder, like, you could... I know it's real, guys. I 100% know it's real, but you could legit make this up with CG.
Go for catch.
Booster engine cut off.
The return flag is set for true.
Ship engine start up. Stage separation.
Maybe it's just the angle?
Right, hot staging confirmed. 6 out of 6 lit on the ship. Booster boost back going. We heard that we are go for catch. Kate, Jesse, take the views. Hopefully I got a booster coming home real soon.
Wow, from our view here, Dan.
I swear to God, guys, in prior videos, they didn't show... These are the catch arms on the side here, which basically catches it. Look how fucking tiny they are. It's like fucking 1,500 tons, and they're supported by these little things on the side. This doesn't feel right. I swear to God, this doesn't feel right, like it's too small. That's what she said. But, like, I swear to God, before they weren't showing these, but this is actually, I thought it was the flippers they were catching it, which would be insane. These are actually for guidance, right? They're flaps. But it's actually this guy right here.
Coming home real soon.
Wow, from our view here, Dan, great views of planet Earth behind that super heavy booster. Right now it is performing the
Ship
boost back burn.
nominal.
Good news there, telling us that the pressures inside the ship are good. That is the second stage, or the upper portion of the vehicle. Follow along with the telemetry on the bottom of your screen.
Yeah, booster is currently, super heavy, is currently in its boost back burn. This boost back burn.
Avionics, power, and telemetry nominal.
This boost back burn lasts just a little bit over a minute, so we've got a little, approximately 30 seconds left.
We've had shutdown of that boost back burn. Up next will be hot stage jettison. The view from the camera on the left, or from the booster on the left-hand side.
That's really
of your
fucking far up there,
and
too.
then tracking cam there on the right-hand side of your screen. We'll see those grid fins.
Booster offshore divert.
And we can also see that the hot stage has been jettisoned.
Yes, visual confirmation of that there on your screen, which is great.
That little
Now the
adapter
next
that they need
Starship is
so they don't
following a
explode the
nominal
booster.
trajectory.
The next step for booster is going into that landing burn. Again, it'll light up 13 of those engines and then pare down to 3 engines right before booster catch.
All right, now just real quick, we did hear the call out, booster offshore divert. Unfortunately, that means that we are no-go for the catch. As we said before, both the tower and the vehicle, as well as the operators on console, have been actively evaluating the commit criteria for that.
They don't want to blow up one of their
return to the
towers.
launch tower.
I mean,
And
a failed
unfortunately,
booster
we
in the
did
water
not
is
have a
much
pass
less
on
of a
those
PR
criteria,
setback
so
than
no-go
watching one of their
for
towers
tower
explode, even though it
catch.
doesn't really matter because there's
And
no one
Dan
around it.
mentioned that we're constantly
Like, there's no one there. It's not like
evaluating
people are
the
going to die if
criteria
it
for
hits the
catch.
tower.
There's a lot of things that need to go well in order to line that
But
up.
if it's any
Unfortunately,
indication
today
of
we'll
how
forego
little
booster catch
tolerance
today.
of things
But
going
what
wrong,
you're
the
seeing
first
on your
space
screen
flight where
is
people are
ship,
freaking out about the pad exploding,
currently
like
making its way
all of a
towards the
sudden,
Indian
like
Ocean, still
there's
looking
like people like
so far.
calling to cancel the
Exactly.
program because
So
like
views
wildlife
there
were
of the
injured or
booster
something.
On the left-hand
It's
side
like,
of your screen,
yeah.
views of the ship on the right-hand side of your screen.
Look at all the rubble that went
Now,
into
we
the
said
ocean,
before
guys.
that it was not guaranteed that we would be able to make a tower catch today. So while we were hoping for it, like
Be
we
watching
said,
space
it's
flight
pretty epic
happening
on
and they're
attempt
worried
one,
about
but,
fucking rubble falling in the
safety
ocean.
of the teams and the public and the pad itself are paramount. So we are accepting no compromises in any of those areas.
Feels bad, man.
Exactly, and we're still going to get.
That being
a
said,
lot
they're
of
planning on
good
like
flight
pumping out a
data
shitload of these,
with
so
booster
one
even,
not
but
being
especially
caught
with
isn't
ship,
actually a
again,
big
we have
deal.
an additional
Where they've only
objective
had like
today
what?
to
This is
do
6th
an
launch
in-space
over the last
relight
year
of a
and a
Raptor
half.
engine, which
Year?
again will help
Year and a half?
set us up for being able to do deorbit burns, which is
Ship chamber pressure is nominal.
which is important for orbital flights. And what you're seeing on your screen is a view from Super Heavy
Going
as
into
it's
the ocean.
making its way back down to Earth.
Yeah, once again, we are attempting an offshore landing of the Super Heavy booster. So we have seen this before, and it is still very fun to watch, watching it come down
And then
for a
explode in the
soft
ocean.
splashdown off the Gulf Coast of Texas. We can see it there re-entering. We saw earlier those grid fins. There are 4 hypersonic grid fins. Oh, we can see that the landing burn has begun on the Super Heavy booster.
And same pattern, 13 engines will light, gone down to 3.
God,
just
it's
as
the
we
water!
expected.
No! 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 You could have used that again!
What an incredible view
Oh!
of splashdown that
Oh.
we got today. Oh, Super
Rip.
Heavy.
Yeah, I'm sure the buoy cam views will be pretty awesome once again.
Rip.
So we'd like to confirm a water
Feels bad,
landing
man.
once again for the Super Heavy booster. Congrats to the SpaceX team for making
Always feels
that
like a waste when you see that
milestone
happen.
as well. Now, ship continues to look good. We can see that it is.
I wonder what's wrong with the booster.
While all of that was happening, the crowd here in Hawthorne continuing to react to all these amazing views that we're getting. The next milestone is
Starship is in terminal guidance.
great news there. Starship terminal guidance, referring to what we see here on our screen, the upper stage. At about
Live views from a
minutes,
starship,
35
from a
seconds or
spaceship,
so,
guys, just
we
orbiting
have ship
orbiting
engine
the planet.
cutoff,
Just went up.
which will be the cutoff of
Phenomenal.
the,
Obviously, this is late because
the
this happened
Raptor
earlier today,
engines.
but this is a recording, right?
We can see on our screen ship giving us some incredible views brought to us by Starlink. This view is also very interesting because we can see.
So it's like, I mentioned this before, guys, it's kind of weird. I mean, obviously I'm all for going to Mars and everything, right? But you think they would have like started with a moon base, right? Just because it's easy, accessible, you can prototype stuff, you could even do tourism. You could have people going to a moon base for, you know, a hotel, right, on the moon. There's 100% billionaires and millionaires 100% would do shit like that, right? Because you can't experience that on
Great news
Earth.
there, everything continuing to look Awesome.
In addition to starting like actual industry, like it's the moon itself is, even though it's not nearly as cool or as promising as Mars is a really really good like stepping stone on the way to Mars.
Nominal orbit insertion.
For a lot of problems that we're
There's
probably
that
going to
call
encounter
we're
on
waiting
Mars,
for.
right?
Confirmation of
In addition
good
to
orbital
mining
insertion for ship
space
today.
mining, right? Helium-3.
It has been a
And
very
starting some sort of industry,
exciting
even if it's going to be net
afternoon
negative, it's
so
all about getting
far.
things started in the first
We'd like
place,
to send
as it is
back
with all
over to
exploration.
Dan,
It's
who can
always
give us
negative.
that, live view experience, Dan.
And then finding out ways of
once again,
monetizing it
are you
and making
okay
it work.
after witnessing another Starship launch?
Yeah, totally fine. It's you guys have to be jealous. This is the only way to do this. This is fantastic. No, it was really cool to see it lift.
I wonder
off
how many people would be
33
willing to
33.
just, if you had
Didn't go for the
if you
booster
could
catch
willingly,
today.
like,
Initially, we
all
were
the
good,
Saturn
and we
rockets were
tripped
basically
the,
manned, right?
limit criteria
If you could just
and did the
willingly go
offshore
into
divert,
like a
so we
rocket
didn't
like
get that
this, even
water
though
manning
you'd
as
probably just
everybody
die, how many
saw.
people would actually be willing to
We'll
do
dig
that?
into it
Probably
a
quite a
little bit
few.
more, but again, we've done it once, we've now done it twice. We're going to keep trying to do it, as this is just a core capability of Starship and what's going to make it so incredible. There's a lot
No,
left.
not all
We're
Saturn
just
rockets were
about
manned.
Almost 10 minutes into this flight, so about 50 plus minutes still to go. Ship nominal orbit, so it's on its way around the planet.
First one
It's
was
gonna
not manned.
attempt to do an in-space burn. We're going to light one of those Raptor engines, the sea level ones in the middle, just to help demonstrate that we can relight in that
Saturn
microgravity
first one was
environment.
not
Really
unmanned.
critical
Saturn
for
5,
deorbit burns.
first
as
two
we
launches
start
were
to do
unmanned to
some
test the
orbital
rocket.
missions in the not too distant future. And then following that, we'll see a ship entry, maybe a splashdown. As you guys said, we're really going to be pushing.
Last
ship on
launch
this
was
one.
also unmanned.
We're pretty much intentionally putting it in places where we
Pretty
expect
crazy
it might
if
not
we
do
actually
so
had
great.
technology to do
And
that
all
in
that's
the
to try and
70s.
help us learn, see if we were a little too conservative, and then maybe that opens up more capability for when we start catching them. But I'll check back in with everybody in a little bit.
We're going to fast forward
I'm gonna
through it,
tune
does a
in and
couple
watch the
orbits or
ship
something,
fly
or does
around
one
planet
orbit and
Earth,
then it comes back down, which
and
takes like an
hopefully we
hour.
see it re-entering in the not too distant future. Back over to you guys.
Thanks, Dan.
First launch, they literally
Low
went to like
intensity,
a
high
hiatus
definition
while
is
this was happening too.
unpredictable, which we saw with super heavy splashing down in the Gulf
Couldn't
of
find
Mexico
someone to
today,
talk
but
for
that
an
is
hour.
exactly
Come
why we
on
test.
now. You
As
can
is
find
standard for these tests,
podcasters
the
and
area
fucking
around
Twitch
the
streamers
pad
that'll
and
talk for an
along
hour
the
about just
flight
random
path was
bullshit.
cleared prior to launch, and we expect the road and beach to remain closed until further notice.
X-Pen.
Yeah, testing development flight hardware in a flight environment is what enables our teams to quickly learn and execute design changes.
We have to keep
and hardware
reiterating,
upgrades
basically, even
to
if you
improve
consider
the
it a failure,
probability
how much of
success
a
in the future.
benefit it is.
Please
Even though for
do
anyone
not
that's in the
attempt to
scientific
approach
community
the
would
booster in
perfectly
the water
understand
for
why.
your safety,
Even when
as
you have
well
failed
as
experiments, you
for
still
that
learn a
of
lot
our
from failed
team that will be
experiments, right?
working on
But the general
recovery.
public and people
Now,
in general don't seem to
we
understand even
are
when something
going to
fails or
continue,
doesn't
though.
meet
The
all the
mission is
goals,
not
you still
done.
learn a lot from what's
Exactly.
happening with it.
Mission's not over.
So they're
Ship is
explaining it
still
right now,
coasting,
basically how
but it has been
even if stuff
nonstop
explodes,
since
it doesn't
liftoff,
really
and
matter
with
that
the
much
booster
because
having
it's making another
completed
one.
its job for the day, we are going to take a short break for the next
Learn from it
35
and
minutes
fix
or
it.
so while ship continues to coast before re-entry. Now, as with previous flights, Starlink may enable us to talk, still testing.
One of those banana.
Oh, banana view, guys. Very phallic. Symbol of phalluses, guys. The banana. Uh-huh. It's true. You know it's true. I was probably like, what if we put a dildo in there? And so like, no, we can't put that on TV. What if we put a banana in there? Yeah.
That microgravity environment in Earth orbit. We had attempted this
Preview.
once
Even
previously
Pornhub has
on
previews,
Flight
guys,
3,
for
but
videos.
ended up skipping
Come
it
on.
when we had
Come on,
some
Twitter.
attitude control issues with the ship. And
It's always
we are
funny
on
how
the
you
dark
can
side of the
actually
planet right now, so
compare streaming
views are
websites
gonna
to
be a
adult
little
streaming
bit
websites
dark,
and know when
but
one's
hopefully we
inferior
see
despite
some
it being
engine
not
light,
part of the adult
come on
industry.
as we do
Like,
this
it's like
relight
bare
test.
minimum.
This is a pretty critical capability for doing deorbit burns. This
Because
is
adult
not
industry,
a
like
deorbit
no one,
burn. Wanna
barely
stress
anyone
that
takes it
we're
seriously.
on a trajectory where if we didn't fire off the engine at all,
Even
we
though
are
it's like a
definitely
billion-dollar
coming home.
industry. Yeah.
Ooh, seeing some thunderstorms down on the ground. That's pretty cool. But this is not a deorbit burn. If we didn't fire this engine, we're on a intentional suborbital trajectory. So no matter what, we're coming in over the Indian Ocean. Firing off the engine does change your exact splashdown point a little bit, but we've got this keep out zone across the entire Indian Ocean that we made sure was clear ahead of flight, and we continue to monitor during. But we're going to aim for that and hopefully see this relay test coming on in about a minute. It's just going to be one of these engines, and it uses what's called the header tank, so these small spherical tanks in the very top of Starship up in the nose cone.
So they're making sure they can ignite the engines in zero gravity outside the atmosphere.
Pressurized is your main tank, so they're really useful for any in-orbit maneuvers, and then for landing burn. So if we make it to a landing burn today, we'll be using them for that as well. So we should be coming up in just about the next minute. It should be under a minute now away from that expected ship burn. And again, we've relit Raptors pretty frequently. We just did it with the landing burn and that boost back burn on the booster, and we've done it on ship landing burns. We just haven't done it in this microgravity environment where your propellant management and a lot of other things are different as you're not weighed down by the force of Earth's gravity. And just heard the call out for startup. There's some light. There's that Raptor relit.
What the fuck is that?
And shut down. All right, there you have it. The first time ever lighting a Raptor while in. All right, there you have it. There's some light there.
On here, it looks like there's fuzz or something attached to the frame.
The call out for startup.
That reminds me of like moss or coral.
There's some light. There's that Raptor relit. And shut down. All right, there you have it. The first time ever lighting a Raptor while in outer space.
Guy for the PNG wasn't there, guys. So he didn't do it.
Really cool to see that relit. That's a pretty critical capability that we're.
Where's the audience?
When we're doing orbital missions in the not too distant future. So check another one off. That was a really cool. That was an objective we really wanted to hit on this one, and so good to just a little bit longer as we return from hypersonic velocities. We're just starting to do the entry prep for that, so we're going to get the flaps positioned. And then it's going to start taking the brunt of all of that heat as you're coming in from well in excess of 10,000 miles an hour. That's all going to...
Weren't they supposed to deploy a banana? Did they already do that?
Encountering an increasing atmosphere, building up that friction. And we're going to see how the tiles fare. We've also got some pretty cool tile experiments that will be successful.
What's on here? A stowaway.
Heard the call out there telling us that the Starship vehicle is now 83 kilometers above, coming up around T plus, well, now actually, the ship, as you can see, is beginning to re-enter the Earth's atmosphere. As a reminder, one of the main goals of today's flight test is for the ship to make it through the extreme heat of re-entry and to do so in a controlled manner. Now, re-entry is typically a portion of flight where we don't have communication capability with the spacecraft because it's re-entering at or around orbital velocity, which is roughly 8 kilometers per second or about 5 miles per second. Now, at those speeds,
that's pretty fast, by the way.
The spacecraft is moving through the atmosphere rather quickly, and that results in friction, as we can see that starting to happen on our screen, and this creates a plasma field around the vehicle. That blanket of plasma distorts communication frequencies, so it's not uncommon to experience brief blackouts in communication.
The loading screen, guys. Yep, the simulation has to make a loading screen between space and the ground.
Starship is approaching
Ah, just like Starfield. Yeah, crazy.
And we just heard we're getting
Look at that. What is
into
this?
the peak heating phase. We're getting these
That-
views courtesy of Starlink. We've got 4 different terminals on the ship itself.
Looks like one of those
It's
corals
what's
that pops
really
out of
allowed us to get
like a tube.
real-time data during what's otherwise been just a mystery
It was
box,
some sort of
essentially,
connector
spacecraft
for the
design,
booster
where
stage.
when you're re-entering through the atmosphere, at least getting anything in real time hasn't ever been possible before. But we're able to not just get these views, but real-time telemetry from the ship as it's coming through. Do really want to stress that we are really pushing the ship today. The heat shield is not in the same configuration as it was last flight, where we had a team of ship techs do just an otherworldly task, replacing the entire heat shield, thousands of tiles, installing a backup ablative, and that pretty much set us up to do a pinpoint landing on Flight 5. We did not do that with this one. We have some backup in those really sensitive areas.
It's an
around the
older
flag,
variant
but
of
this
last
is
flight.
an older generation heat shield. And knowing we weren't going to do that, we even went and removed some extra tiles. There are some missing tiles on the nose cone.
So they
where
intentionally
we're testing some backups.
weakened it
There
to
are
figure
some
out
steel-covered tiles
how it
in a couple of different
functions in a
spots,
shittier state.
and there's also a whole lot more steel of the ship showing. As you guys talked about, we gave it a little bit of a haircut, a couple hundred tiles trimmed off the sides, and that's where we might have catch fittings in the future. But ooh, color's starting to come in. So it looks like things are going to start heating up, Kate and Jesse.
Yeah, fun fact, Dan, we actually removed 2,100 heat shield tiles from Starship in order to basically present that necessary receding line, which you kind of can see there in your view. Think back to previous flights. The heat shield line came up further on the vehicle, and just
So
like
they
Dan
over
said,
armored it, and now
we
they're
wanna
trying to
test
pull back a
the
little bit to see what they can
beyond
what they actually need.
what we think it is capable of carrying based on our simulations and calculations. So once again, to just be super plain, don't be surprised if we see some wackadoodle stuff happen here.
Don't be surprised if
we
it
won't be.
explodes.
There
Yeah.
are a number of things that we are testing out intentionally to
Kerbal
see
Space Program,
what
guys.
the ship can take.
Pretty accurate.
Yeah, exactly. And knowing what those limits are will really help us design the vehicle of the future. Essentially, removing those tiles helps us remove a lot of weight from the vehicle, a lot of things that might potentially need refurbishment in the future. And the goal is to come up with a heat shield pattern or design that we don't have to refurbish. We can just continue to use it over and over again. And that's why we're changing some of those tiles and moving stuff around, removing a lot of those tiles. As Kate has
Why don't we have
mentioned.
deflectors yet, guys?
Exactly. And
Why don't we have
looking forward
deflector
to the
dishes yet?
Starship capability of the
Good
future,
question.
We want to be able to catch Starship.
It's probably just
like
it's
we
literally,
do
you know,
with boosters.
I mentioned this
So the
before, but
next-
what's probably going to happen here is you're going to find out that basically you could deal basically with not an inertial dampener, but a deflector is probably just some very, very strong form of a magnet, which they're already trying to use right now for fusion experiments. And what we're probably going to find out is if you actually make a directional magnetic field, you probably can push away the majority of the plasma away from the side of the ship. Yeah. Wouldn't that be funny? Yeah, to create a buffer zone around it, like they do with fusion experiments right now. But, in order to do that, you need to have an insane amount of energy generation, which means we'd probably need to have, nuclear spacecraft at some point, which we still don't have. Mainly due to treaties, but potentially possible, right? It just would take an insane amount of electricity to do it.
We want to better understand where
A lot
we
of stuff
can install
hinges
catch
on
hardware,
better form
not
of
necessarily
energy
to actually
generation,
do the catch, but
just
to see how that
industry in
hardware
general,
holds
and then
up
also
in
energy
those spots.
storage. So,
And today's flight will help inform,
lithium right now is still basically what we use for most of our batteries,
stainless
right?
steel
There's
hold
different
up
variants of
like
lithium
we
ion,
think it may, based on
lithium batteries in
experiments
general,
that we
but it's all
conducted
basically
on
lithium batteries,
Flight
which is
5.
90s tech,
Now continuing
which is
to look
kind of
amazing
funny.
views.
30
Yeah, Dan,
years
go
old.
ahead.
We're still
I was
improving
just
on
gonna
it, but
say,
it's
there's
still basically the
so
same
much
thing.
on this flight that we're doing to try and make all the ships that we're about to start flying even better. Just
Like if you
really
put a
understand what their
small modular
capabilities
reactor
are
in
gonna
there?
be. We've got kind of the next.
You'd have to find a way of converting it to thrust too, which would also weed out a lot of the engines, right? Because as it stands right now, there's very limited ways of actually turning energy, like electricity, into thrust. I think an ion engine is something you could do with that, but it's extremely, extremely slow. Like very, very slow. It basically doesn't exist, which is why we still use chemical rockets. And I believe this is a liquid chemical, but in the past we've used solid chemical rockets as well.
Then we think in just the analysis, but always a chance that bet doesn't pay off. But that just helps us know like what are our
Starship
limits.
is now halfway through the peak heating phase of entry.
Sweet, halfway there, halfway home, guys.
Yeah, and if you guys, again, can follow along with the altitude and the speed of ship as it's making its way back down to Earth, bottom right-hand corner of your screen. Speed is still going really, really fast. Again, as it gets closer to Earth, we'll see that altitude drop a little bit faster. It's kind of dropping pretty slow right now. And again, as we get closer and closer to literally the surface of the water, then we'll start to see that speed pick up. And if we can make it,
love the heating effects on the stainless. You can see the heat affecting the coloration of the stainless, which they don't mention, but that's actually what's happening here. So you can actually see it is basically being warped by the heat right now.
Beyond the perceived limits of
There's also where you get like knives, for instance, that have cool coloring to them
want to go learn
by being
more
heated
about the ship,
differently.
and this is a great opportunity to do that. So really pushing the flight hardware in a flight environment to help inform these future designs.
So they couldn't make it better, so they just made it worse instead.
It has a different heat shield.
It's a placeholder launch. It's a placeholder launch. They probably didn't think they'd be able to launch nearly as fast as they did. Because last one, I think they had to wait, what, like 6 months or something insane, 4 months? And this was a month after the last launch, which is ridiculous, right?
So basically, like if the heat shield isn't in this one spot, can this other material protect the metal is the thinking there.
Surprised they aren't using asbestos.
Also, checking of the
Asbestos is actually extremely good at being a heat mitigating material, by the way. Even if it's toxic to humans and can cause cancer, it's really good at what it does.
As we've been saying, we've done a lot of
asbestos ceramic. Are these?
This view right here
what
is
are
super
the
cool.
tiles made out of
from the
Starship?
aft engine bay,
They're ceramic
basically
something.
at the bottom of Starship. Then
Aluminum,
on
lithium,
the
and carbon
center
fiber.
left-hand panel, if you will, we have one of the forward Starship flaps. So one of the flaps located at the top of the vehicle. Underneath that is one of the aft end flaps, like the one that we see in the main picture there on the right-hand side of your screen. Now, these views as the vehicle continues to enter the Earth's atmosphere, drawing a crowd once again here at SpaceX and Hawthorne as folks tune in as the mission continues on.
Does that mean it's going faster? It's green now.
That we have coming up.
It could actually be the material. You're actually seeing. So, you see the green? This is probably actually whatever's on the heat tiles reacting, which is different color than it was last time. So it's probably going somewhat the same speed. But you can see that the material on the heat tiles themselves is wearing off right now. Is actually slightly different.
Transonic, around T plus 1 hour and 2 minutes or so. That means that the vehicle is traveling near the speed of sound. We say near the speed of sound because there are certain parts of the vehicle where airflow is going faster and other parts where it's going slower. So it kind of teeters there on the brink of the speed of sound. So once we have equal flow on all parts, then we'll hear it's subsonic.
Yeah, and
and almost real quick, almost a reverse of. I'm sorry, Jesse. Almost a reverse of before. We see the Earth starting to come into view. We've got sunrise there, over the Indian Ocean. So this is going to look different from any of the re-entries we've had before, and it was specifically so like we get as much daylight as possible to see how ship does this. Over to you, Jesse. Sorry about that.
Dan, great minds think alike. That's exactly what I was going to point out, is that we're getting a lot clearer view of the Earth in the background with the different temperatures that we're seeing, with the different colors of that plasma around the ship, which is really, really cool to see.
Here every fucking day, guys. Here every goddamn day. It's like I'm prompting the casters right now.
Ship today.
Yeah, I just radioed into command in this video that's already been recorded for them to add in talking about the color and the fire.
Like we've said before, don't be surprised if this is not entirely smooth sailing all the way down to the ocean's surface. Similar to Flight 5, we are targeting the same splashdown location in the Indian Ocean, but we are not expecting to recover the vehicle.
Right, and we were getting some glimpses of the flaps. The flaps so far are looking pretty good. We're not seeing any burn through. There's those flaps again in that hinge area, which is our most concerning area there. That's great news for us for now. Again, the next few minutes could change as we continuously push those limits.
Apparently, there's safer versions of material that aren't
once
asbestos
we
related
slow
now.
down a
That are
little bit,
better.
Once we're subsonic, essentially, so I think that's about 1,200 kilometers an hour. Once we're down below that, that's when we're going to kind of dip our nose down and get that more aggressive angle of attack. Normally, we're just belly flop right into the water, pretty much, that position. But if we're going to be able to do return to launch sites, we're going to want to be able to fly with a little
Was
bit
using
more of an
Space
angle of
Shuttle solid
attack,
rocket
get you a little
boosters.
bit more range as you're coming through. And so this'll be just a test to see quite how far can we push it. And obviously we're going to do these kind of tests way out here in super remote areas before you ever try to bring a ship back to a place like Starbase.
Aw.
Starship remains on a good entry trajectory.
I want to see a
External
graveyard of
temperature coming
starships in the ocean right outside the base. That's perfect,
All right,
my
great
personal
news
opinion.
there.
Maybe
That
it's
tells us
send the
we
wrong
are
message, but
through
you know.
the phase of peak heating. So we are expecting these temperatures to continue to come down.
I guess as if they
Once
actually
again,
plan on
we
it,
are
like
targeting a soft splashdown in the Indian Ocean.
discarding the
around
rocket. They
off
can't
the
do it
northwest
in
coast
close to their normal
of
base.
Australia. We can see these beautiful views of planet Earth coming in. Yeah, this is very different where we had nighttime views of the ship as it was re-entering.
Much more
And now
photographic.
we've got daylight. It is about an hour or so after sunrise there in the Indian
What this guy's
Ocean.
doing
So
right here? That
pretty cool to
balancer?
see this.
Yeah, and it might not seem like it makes a huge difference.
tiles
but
on
we
the
do
back
get a
edge
little
of it
bit more
on this
light
flap and on
ship
that
as
flap.
well for the camera views that we have.
Also, that guy's heating up.
Which is very beneficial for us to visually see anything and try and correlate that to
Uh-oh.
any of the sensors
It's like that side's
or
getting
data
too
that
hot,
we
guys.
have on the vehicle.
Exactly. That is why we shifted our launch window so that we could have that daylight in order to improve our observations of the vehicle. So not only are we getting all the
Probably
launch
that,
data
and also it
from
looks
all the
nicer from the
sensors that are
perspective of
on
someone
board
watching the launch, right?
Starship, but we also
All
have
for moving the
multiple
time period a little
cameras
bit.
and assets out there that are watching the vehicle and will also be able to tell us with this visual story that is also very, very important.
Here every day, guys.
As
Here
we
every
get
fucking
down
day.
A little bit lower, the Raptor engines
And
are
I'm not
in
getting
show
paid
phase
anything.
right now, so just essentially getting them primed to turn on. We're going to use those 3 center engines to do a landing flip and then a landing burn. So we'll come down kind of in that slightly pointed down belly flop and then fire off those engines.
Slow
to
down a
flip
lot?
us around and then do that
Must
final
have.
landing burn. That should be coming up in just just under 5 minutes from now. And then hopefully we start hearing some call outs on transonic and subsonic as we slow down. Again, once you hear Starship as subsonic, keep a close eye on the flaps. They're going to be working overtime essentially to maintain control of the ship as we get a little more aggressive with this.
Rip. That side, yep. They probably halved it
We
if you
can
think about
see
using
that
it.
We are beginning.
Starship has passed maximum entry dynamic pressure.
They probably changed it
All right,
so
great call
half
out
the
there,
ship has
but we
one
can
like
see
one
on
kind
this
of
view
tile
here
or something
that
like that, and the
we
other
have
side is another
heating
side,
there.
another type.
That looks like one of the forward flaps on Starship.
Which still did better, by the
This
way,
is
than I think it was the first
to be
one,
expected.
second one.
We knew that the vehicle
Second one.
would perform differently than what we had seen.
Third one.
on
I don't even
Flight
know
5.
anymore.
This is actually really good data
Sixth
because
one.
it tells us what parts of the vehicle at this.
Yeah, my guess is they halved it, so one
what will
half of it
soon
has
be
a
higher
certain type of
angle
tile
attack
or
once we drop down,
composition, the other side
below
has
the speed
another,
of
because
sound.
it's going to evenly
We'll
symmetrically
have a
heat
higher
right across the
angle
whole
of attack,
thing.
meaning we're going to be flying.
So you could
nose down,
technically have 2
basically.
tests in one if you wanted to
So
do
yeah,
it that way.
This is good news, but we can actually looks like that heating is starting to cool off there.
Yeah, and it still made it, and still did
Yeah,
better
it's a
than the
little
last
burn
version of it, but
through.
you know, it probably fucked
Again,
the
it is
flap.
important to note when we start seeing that through the ship's descent as well. So like Kate was saying, we're getting some really good data here. It looks like the other flaps are doing a little better than the one that has a little burn through, which is some good news. Again, constantly watching. We've got a couple minutes until we're expecting to make it all the way back down to Earth.
Exactly. And like we said before, we are not expecting to recover the ship, although that would be great. It'd be a nice bonus if it happened, but
How would
it's
you
not
actually,
really in our
like, I think if they
expectations
wanted to
today.
recover it, because it lands, like, in the bottom,
really
right?
wanna
Like, it
push the
lands
hardware,
normally,
as
like,
we've
if you
been
ever seen
saying,
the Falcons come down, they
but
land in
really
the bottom, right?
telemetry
Like,
and the
this, they
data
plop down.
and the
I think if they
video
wanted to
that we
recover it, they'd
receive
belly
all the
flop
way
it,
to the
right?
end is truly what we're looking for and will help inform the future designs.
Because it comes down in the
of this
bottom, which
vehicle.
basically fucks up the engines,
We
or
can see
whatever's
some
left of the
flap
engines.
movement as the
Going
camera
from
is
super
moving
hot to
around.
super cold is not
That's
something
what
that's
you're
tolerated
seeing
well.
There is the flaps adjusting, and we have a camera on one of the flaps there. This is the view that you're seeing there.
They'll only probably make it so it'd actually survive if they wanted to.
And you can also see the
I
graphic
don't
in
know,
the
it's
bottom.
probably
Oh,
sealed
it's
pretty
slowing
well
down
too, so if
past
it has
Mach
air in
1.
it, it'll float, right?
And call outs aligning with this. You can see the orientation of the vehicle.
They just they
starting
could
to
recover them
change.
from
You
the
follow that
ocean
graphic
without
at the
actually
bottom
using
of
a
your
landing
screen.
arm. I mean, you wouldn't be able to do that with
Again,
people
that
inside,
is why
but
those flaps are changing. They control the orientation.
you could totally
of the
like set it so it comes down and then it reorients itself and belly flops at the end, right?
The subsonic belly flop remains on a good trajectory.
I was gonna say this is when
Which actually would be kind
things
of cool because
will
it present
start to
another
get
way
a
of
little
recovering your
interesting.
vehicles
So this
without
is when
completely
we're
losing them,
moving
assuming you
slower than
don't
the
get the
speed of
option to
sound.
actually
You can
catch
see
them
that
properly.
nose slowly start to tip down, and we're going to try and maintain flap control the whole way. But we are just a couple minutes away from hopefully doing a landing flip and landing burn if the flaps can hold together.
Yeah, this is such a cool view. This reminds me of when we first performed the belly flop maneuver on the high altitude test with serial number 8. We saw the ship come back through.
Which
and
launch
I
is
always
it? I don't know
wondered
what
it
serial
looked
number
like
8 is.
from
Which
the ship's
launch was that?
perspective, and this perspective
I don't
will
know
be
your
helpful
serial
in
numbers. It
that.
doesn't even
We
say
will
the
be,
serial
as
number
Dan
down
said,
here.
We'll be dipping down a little further and really be flying nose first. This higher
If you're
angle
doing something like
impact,
this, by the way,
you know,
it'd be
we're
cool if it actually
intentionally doing
just
it
did
to
what they did with the
stress
first one,
those
which is making it
aft
doing like a
flaps,
loop-de-loop in the
and
air or
that will
something
help
like that.
inform the limits of flap control in order to
Because it
collect
was the
data
second
for
one?
future
No, the first one I
landing
think did
profiles.
loop-de-loops in the air. It was the second one. One of the two did a loop-de-loop in the air unintentionally before they blew it up.
I mean, we're looking good so far. We've just got about 5 kilometers in altitude to go. We'll ignite the engines when we're still just a couple hundred
I'd like to see the
meters,
side with
over
the
ground,
damage
do that
flap.
flip,
They're only showing this side. I don't know if maybe they only have one cam.
Remains on a good trajectory.
I have a feeling this is going to look so cool as it passes through the clouds.
Obligatory shout out to the entire avionics team on Starship.
And there's that nose down orientation.
Oh,
Now the Raptor engines will relight and help flip the booster back up. This is a more severe flip given the orientation. The engines will shut down prior to the water making impact, prior to the vehicle making impact with the water.
Our ship is doing great so far. There's those engines relighting.
What a great reorientation by Starship.
Wow.
All 3 down to 2 into the water.
Starship is landed.
Wow.
And we have ship splashed down.
they explode? I think the last one
ocean.
exploded.
Some awesome buoy cam action here. Daylight
our buoy.
views.
It's on fire.
Incredible. We really pushed the limits on shipping and made it all the way back down
Oh.
to Earth.
It didn't explode. The last one exploded, so
To be
it's
honest,
this time it's only on
I think
fire.
Many folks are. The fact that it survived all the way through while flying a lesser gen heat
They probably
shield
could even stop-
is just absolutely incredible.
They probably
And,
could even stop
turns out
its
the
bananas,
vehicle had
guys.
more capability than our calculations
They could probably
predicted,
actually
and
stop it
that
from
is
exploding if
why
they vented
we
the
test
fuel
like
before
we
then,
fly.
too, assuming they can actually do
Exactly why
that.
we do that.
Like
And
airplanes
those
can vent their own
views
gas
were
or fuel, right?
absolutely incredible to watch.
So if
Because
they
of
actually
Starlink,
calculate
we
how
were
much
able to
fuel
get
has,
views
they could
all
actually
the way
vent it prior to it
down,
landing
as well
and
as
make
the
it even
buoys,
safer for
seeing ship touch down
emergency
in
touchdown,
daylight.
which actually
So
would probably be
cool, so
important,
cool.
assuming you have people on it and they need to land in some sort of area. You could actually
Unfortunately,
pull data from
wrap
this
up the
where,
show.
like, what happens
Yeah, exactly. We'll say congratulations
people
to
are on
our
board, right? You
teammates
need to
at
save them.
SpaceX
So then you
and to
find out ways
everyone who
of
supported the Starship
dealing with
program.
the
And
unoptimal
thank you
situation.
to all of our future customers for your support.
We'd also like to thank the people of Cameron County, Texas, as well as the Coast Guard.
What about me?
Federal
What about
Aviation
me? I'm a
Administration,
streamer.
the
I'm a streamer.
Government
I have
of
like 10
Mexico,
people watching
and
me,
the
man. What
Australian
about
Space
me?
Agency.
Now,
It's bananas,
be
guys.
sure to
Oh. Smile. What are we missing?
Hey guys, I could take it from here. That was just incredible to see that splashdown. As you said, thanks to everybody that took such a huge part in this. Everybody
too.
here at Starbase that's worked on this program, just really pouring your lives into it.
Guess they're making sure that he was
Great to see
in
another
position or
booster
something.
lift
I don't
off.
actually
We'll
know
catch
what
you the next
was
time.
going on there.
Great to see ship in the water. New version of ship coming soon, so a lot more
Oh.
exciting launches coming up real soon here from Starbase. But I'll send this
Military
out this time.
personnel?
We'll see you guys next time.
There.
Awesome. Thanks, Dan. Be sure to follow SpaceX
We had to
on
go to
X
Dan,
for
guys.
updates and more exciting views that we weren't able to feature on today's broadcast.
I'm sure there will be plenty of those. Now, thanks to all of you for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.
Bye-bye. Well, we're to keep covering these guys. Just if they have like experimental flights, I know it's like stuff that kind of seems bad, but eventually, like if they increase their cadence here, eventually we're gonna get to the point where this is no longer experimental and they're just gonna have normal flights like with Falcon, right? It'd actually be kind of cool to watch their experimental flights, assuming they're actually gonna do more testing like this. Mainly because it's like watching iterations happen in real time. Obviously not your production model, but you get to see parts of the ship explode and random things like that, right? It's actually maybe I'm too much of an optimist as far as people being able to understand that even when stuff goes wrong, it's still cool and it's still fine because it's an experiment, right? It's just the way that it happens. But I personally I'm interested in the experimental stuff, especially when they're testing something new. That's really fucking cool. Status quo is not so much cool, even though it's reassuring people that things are bravo, they're working fine, we're going to space and everything. Stuff like this is actually really cool. And once again, you probably could even pull even more data from stuff like this is if you're trying to figure out ways of making it. So imagine the case being if that's a ship coming down and there's people on it, trying to make it so they have the the highest chance of surviving in an unoptimal situation, even though there clearly aren't people on it. Eventually there will be people on it, and sometimes something's going to go wrong, and you need to have the opportunity to deal with it even when it's not in the best case scenario, right? Maybe I'm just thinking too far outside the box and it doesn't really even matter at all. But it's important to stress, which they talked about quite a bit in the video, is that even when things go wrong, it doesn't matter because that's actually what it's a learning experience, right? And a lot of people don't understand learning experiences are basically just building on a bunch of mistakes and getting things right, and then building on the stuff that you got right. And when stuff goes wrong, you have to figure out what went wrong with it and build more and more and more and more. It's an iterative process, right? Cool stuff. It's the reason that we're covering these guys, even if you are not a fan of the Musk because of his political views. Stuff like this is really fucking cool, and we took a 50-year break from doing exactly this shit. Yeah, the Saturn V's guys, we legit launched a space station to fucking space. The moon, what was it called? Skylab. Legit, even though we deorbited it, and apparently Congress right now is considering deorbiting ISS because it's at the end of its life, even though they could push it into a higher orbit and basically preserve it, right? Keep it at a higher orbit and just have it sit up there until we can do something with it. I don't really understand the idea of people just completely throwing shit out sometimes, but, it's like idealism, right? Oh, the ISS is done, it's past its life, let's just get rid of it. And, legit other countries have, despite the fact that they're perfectly on board with it lasting longer, are planning on, removing their modules from the system and attaching them to their own bases in space, basically removing their parts from the ISS prior to it being deorbited. So, I don't know. We had our own space station in space for quite a bit, and then, yeah, just deorbited it. Just goodbye. It could still be up there right now because there's plenty of stable orbits that we can put stuff in where it doesn't deorbit. It doesn't decay forever. And instead, they're just like, yeah, no, let's just drop it into the fucking atmosphere. We're done with it. And you're like, have you never played 4X games before? Have you never realized what if someone's trapped in space and they need a place to be? Obviously, you need to have that derelict Skylab space station to be there or something. Either way, there's cool shit, guys. Like I said, it's kind of disappointing that they aren't planning to go to the moon because we could do that a lot faster and a lot sooner. and set up basically the prototype for going to Mars prior to us going to Mars, right? Because the moon is actually really accessible compared to going to Mars. So when things go wrong, you can get, you know, back and forth, and the scrutiny and the, you know, needing to do things right is, you know, there's less of a margin. There's more margin for error, which probably will go wrong anyways, but just along the way. But maybe that's just me. I don't. Maybe Musk wants to skip past that because it's too down to earth, so to speak, right? Like other countries are planning to go to the moon again, and we aren't. We're going to go to Mars because that's cooler, right? I think it's kind of missing a step along the way for both like infrastructure, building bases, even tourism, and starting up industry in space. We'll probably all just start with the Mars as a stepping stone for going to, or excuse me, the moon as a stepping stone to going for Mars. But that's where we are. Okay. Changing things here, guys. I'm going to take a piss real quick here. Kind of pivoting here, and then we have some... we're probably going to cover the next launch, which I don't know when that's going to be. Starship 7 launch date. January? Early 2025, which is kind of weird, considering the last launch happened last month, right? And this one just happened. And then they're waiting till spring? Kind of a... I guess they had the opportunity to launch one. They're like, yeah, let's do it. Due to complexities of flying the V2 ship. So they got stuff to iron out with the second version of the ship. So this is still another one of their V1 models, I guess. I don't really explain a whole lot of this in the video, which is all important. Okay. And then we're going to cover this, guys, which we are going to talk about here in a second, which there's a congressional UAP hearing on Wednesday last week, which we covered in 2-hour, not seminar, 2-hour hearing, in which basically they had members of, former members of the government and, you know, current government members too, that were talking about basically stuff that they're not allowed to talk about, and talking about stuff that we should be allowed to talk about, and like an in-between and programs that possibly more than likely exist, but they can't talk about them or can't access information related to them, depending on which side of things you're talking about. So we're going to take a look at this in a second. The interesting thing here is this was last week, and Congress moves really fucking slow. So I didn't expect anything like this. Apparently they have someone from Aero testifying there, which is curious. We're going to take a look at this in a second, but probably not anything outside of what we already know. One second, guys. Okay, we're not watching the News Nation video, mainly because of the fact that it's, I've watched News Nation before, and it gets DMCA'd or takedowns, so muted. I think it wasn't a takedown, it was just muted. Anyways, what happened is I saw this. Where did I see it on? I saw the headline somewhere. And I was trying to find the video of it, and I couldn't find the actual video, because apparently he testified before Congress? Yeah, and I couldn't find the actual video. Like, it says that there's a video, and there's no actual video. Still video from captured U.S. operated drone above 2080 Mount Etna appears to show anomalous object. Pentagon's UFO chief says his office was able to solve the case. Okay. Like, I'm actually, like, it's not, I think Arrow's misunderstanding their job. It's not to solve cases, it's to show us and figure out the cases they can't solve. Maybe Congress is not giving them the right direction, which is, it's not, you know, we don't care about the trash bags, we don't care about the kites, we don't care about someone's drone flying around. We care about the stuff that you can't actually solve. That is the things that really matter. It's not the stuff that you can solve. It's all the other things you can't solve. So UAPs, if you're unfamiliar, guys, are unidentified aerial phenomena, formerly known as UFOs, which had to be renamed because people were turning into crazies and tinfoil hatting, and basically no one could take it seriously anymore, so they had to rename them. More or less, they had to rename them, and UAPs are now what they called for people that take them seriously, so they can separate themselves from the stigma and the bias associated with... Here it is. So this is much smaller. Dude, the audience was absolutely packed before. This will be kind of curious to look at. I'm actually surprised that they got this. They got this. I had to literally dig for this video. I'm surprised they actually got this, which is they basically got the new head of Arrow to testify. I believe that's him. Yeah. And I had to dig for this video, which shouldn't be a thing. It's all from Congress, right? This is all recorded. So... yeah, there's one photographer here. Good for him. Stenographer, I think. I don't know, it's maybe just someone managing the presentation. There's stenographers right there. But yeah, like, they have to separate themselves all from the bias of basically crazy tinfoil hat shit. And we covered it Wednesday, which is very interesting because they had a bunch of very credible people on their panel that were talking about past, present programs, directions for government agencies to go to look at this stuff, right, and take it seriously.
This hearing will come to order. I'd like to first thank our witness, Dr. John Kozlowski, for...
Why the fuck did I need to dig for this? This isn't even on, like, a... What is this? The Senate? It's not even named, like, the Senate hearing or anything. It's just something random. Why?
Kozlowski for testifying. He is our newly appointed director of
15
the
FPS.
All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Office, or ARROW, an office Congress established in the fiscal year 2022 NDAA.
It is actually 15
to
FPS.
investigate this very serious problem of unidentified anomalous phenomenon, or UAP. Dr. Kozlowski comes to ARROW from the Research Directorate of the National Security Agency, where he worked in areas of optics research and crypto mathematics. He previously served at the DoD Special Communications Enterprise Office. We look forward to regular engagements between you.
By the way, just to preface this, I don't expect him to say anything outside the ordinary. Pretty much everything that's come out of Arrow is very, very, not even level-headed, very mute and tries to kind of go in the opposite direction. They said originally, for multiple people, as said, and including the witnesses on, one of the witnesses, I think, what do you even call them, these people? They weren't really witnesses because it implies a crime. One of the people at the hearing last week said that basically the director was going the wrong direction. There's multiple people that asserted that. They replaced the director with, I think, this guy, who supposedly is taking things seriously. So...
and the committee. When unidentified anomalous phenomenon enter our airspace, we need to know about it. We need to identify it, but in order to do that, we need to reduce the stigma and credibility challenges.
She's saying the same thing as, I think the last person's name was Mace.
Members, scientists, foreign partners, and the general public need to know that their
led the last hearing.
Research and analysis will be taken seriously and acted on in good faith. In the spirit of transparency, Arrow recently released a consolidated annual report just a few months after releasing.
By the way, they also did an update literally the day after the hearing. Not even joking, the day after the hearing.
These public documents help highlight the challenges.
And it basically is just the same thing as what they released last year.
Including the lack of timely and actionable sensor data, The need to revisit.
They said that
places
they're
for cases
updating
placed in
the.
active
They have a
archive,
prototype sensor net, which
and
is
the importance
kind of curious. I
improving
tweeted at
reporting
them
sources,
why they don't
both
use
in an
Doppler radar. So if you guys are
interagency
curious, Doppler radar is radar we use for weather, right? It is something that pre-exists that's literally everywhere in the country. It has almost complete coverage of the entire country, and it's generally all linked together. It's all, the information is all shared through a network. It already fucking exists. And if you didn't know, Doppler radar is so sensitive, it can actually detect bird movements. Yeah, it can see birds moving in the sky, which they then have to weed out because it's not weather, right? It's an anomaly. Why we have Doppler radar, and it's not used, as far as I know, it's not used for finding things that are flying that shouldn't be there, I don't know. Because it could definitely be used for that, but it's not used for that, right? And Doppler radar, once again, is actually really cool. I remember back when I was in the 90s, and every local TV station would advertise that they had access to Doppler radar, right? Because it is done through NOAA, through the National Weather Association or something. National, what is NOAA anyways? Let's see. It's done through NOAA and the NWS, I think. National Oceanic Atmospheric Administration. So they actually have stuff in place, which is very important, by the way, because they do things like track tornadoes and hurricanes, right? The stuff that is extremely detrimental to your life, and you need early warning of. There's a time in our country in which we didn't have this, and like we didn't have early warning, and tornadoes would just come through and people just get run over, and it was actually kind of a big deal, right? So yeah, this actually was founded out of a need to basically us to understand our weather, right? But it could actually already be used to see birds. Can Doppler radar detect birds? Like flock movements? It's sensitive enough, guys, where it can detect birds, which is insane. Absolutely fucking insane. It's not used for bird tracking. It could be, as far as I know. It could be used for that, but it's not used for that. And it's like, the government itself is kind of weird because it's basically a bunch of working pieces that don't talk to each other, that just do their job, right? And they could be used for other things, but they don't because it's outside the scope of what they're supposed to do. And then on top of it, they obviously don't want, putting aside the fact that, people don't want more work and they don't want to do stuff that doesn't really, isn't going to, rock the boat, so to speak, right? But it can actually be used for all different sorts of cool shit. And I mean, the Department of Defense could also use this for tracking aircraft, which also would be pretty fucking important in case of, some sort of military disaster, right? You could actually use this for, the Doppler radar is literally everywhere in the country. It's fucking everywhere. It covers basically all the country. And it could actually be used for that, but it's not, because NOAA and the NWS is not, that's not National Weather Service, NWS, they don't do that, right? That's not their thing. They aren't there to detect UFOs or UAPs. And potentially they could actually be used for that, and or someone could have access to the data and then put it through a model that would then figure it out. Because if you don't know, a lot of your Doppler radar is actually put through filters, so it gives you what you want to see, right? But there's a lot of raw information there that's not actually used. Why they don't do it, I don't know. There's a guy that was on the last panel that was talking about basically combing through the NASA's archives looking for UAP, UFO data, which they could do, but with a AI model, very easily do with an AI model, but they don't. Right? Because they just aren't tasked with doing that. And there's a lot of really, really cool shit. It's, if you actually look at this, it's on the National Weather Service. It's literally, you can, look at this. This is what happens when a flock of birds gets up and flies away. Where they just poof. That's exactly what you're fucking seeing here. And they're literally describing it on the National Weather Service website. So, am I so far-fetched to believe, what it could potentially be used for? I don't think so, right? Yeah. But that's actually, this is really fucking cool. But it's really kind of weird. Like I said, just parts of the government are just detached from each other and they don't really talk to each other at all. So, yeah, I don't know.
And internationally. In this hearing, I want to probe a series of specific issues. First,
also, get Cam
as
Guy to set their
incidents at
webcam to
Langley
30
and
FPS, please.
Unmanned aerial systems, or
Hard to
UAS,
watch.
continue to pose significant threats to our national security. In addition to safety of flight issues, these UAS create for our own pilots and air crew. The UAS present clear and undeniable counterintelligence concerns around some of the most sensitive airspace. While standard UAS are not part of AARO's mission, Your work
And once again,
on
I had to dig for
sensors
this
at
video.
military installations across the country
I found it
will
on
be critical
space.com.
to
That
making
was
sure that we
for
have
the
the
actual
domain
hearing that everyone's
awareness
referencing.
necessary to accurately identify and track these objects. I expect your office to also pay close attention to any anomalous characteristics that these systems could
This might
present
just
in the
be,
future.
what is it called?
Second, I look forward to your presentation of 3 case studies demonstrating cases that Aero has resolved, including the Go Fast, which is one of the most prominent UAP cases.
Go
However, I
Fast.
believe it is important to acknowledge ongoing public interest
There's
in
no
the
fucking
Nimitz
way.
incident, the
There's no
gimbal
way.
video,
It's been
and
around for
other
like 20
prominent
years.
UAP
No way.
cases, and for Aero to share what it can about those cases as well. It's also important that Aero speak to unresolved cases and what types of anomalous
I agree. It's the unresolved ones that really matter.
Analysis. And while I know Aero has gone through a period of transition over the past year, it is important
Because
to share these disclosures, both resolved.
Arrow was put into place to add transparency to UAPs, UFOs, and any sort of like things that we don't understand that are happening around us. And it was immediately, apparently, seemingly lobotomized from someone that ended up just completely dragging his feet and not really doing anything he was supposed to. Weirdly, not doing anything. It's kind of weird how he just ended up there and then just proceeded to muddle the entire system so nothing got done. You know, why that would happen, I don't fucking know, considering all we're doing is asking, you know, what's there, and all you have to do is, hey, look, it's a trash bag. But apparently that was too much for him, so he got replaced. Transitionary period is a pretty good one.
And unresolved cases with the public, even when a Senate hearing is not scheduled. Lastly, while some have been hesitant to come forward to Aero in the past, I hope that potential individuals with firsthand knowledge of unreported programs view your arrival in this position as an opportunity for a new start. Aero was created by Congress.
If they're saying they solve Go Fast, it immediately just makes me go, maybe not. We'll see what they say.
Information to Aero and gave Aero the authority to go and turn over every rock. I hope those with information to share use this opportunity so that we, as your senators who represent you, can do our jobs. I look forward to hearing more on these issues from Dr. Kozlowski and for members to start a dialogue on this important topic. With that, I would like to turn to Senator Ernst for her opening statement.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Dr. Kozlowski. Our hearing today is about identifying UAPs and understanding
cameraman,
their potential.
Is there better coverage of this? Let me check real quick here, guys. They're 20 FPS, 15 FPS is very, very difficult to watch. So let's see. UAP hearing November 19th. Senate Armed Service hearing on government investigation. ABC News 9 hours ago. PBS News. Filters. How is it so hard? Upload date. Last today. Relevance. That just made things worse. Why is this 2 hours, guys? 37 minutes. Definitely need to get a higher quality going on here.
Part of undeniable counterintelligence your work on sensors around some military installations across the country will be critical to making sure that we have the domain.
No way. These are paid companies, guys. There's no fucking way.
Where he worked in areas of optics research and crypto mathematics.
That's better.
He previously served at the DoD Special Communications Enterprise Office. We look forward to regular engagement
this still looks like
between you
720p.
and the committee. When unidentified anomalous frequency and these objects, I expect your office to also pay close attention to any anomalous characteristics that these systems, even when a Senate hearing is not scheduled. and for members to start a dialogue on this important topic. With that, I would like to turn to Senator Ernst for her opening statement.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you,
Much
Dr.
better.
Kozlowski. Our hearing today is about identifying UAPs and understanding their potential implications, which
We're talking AV Club level shit from the 90s going on here, guys. I do better. I cast to like 5 people. I do better. What is this?
could range from technological advancements to potential threats to our national security. Are these phenomena tied to foreign adversaries such as China or Russia, leveraging advanced technologies beyond our current capabilities? Or do they represent unknown scientific phenomena that challenge our current understanding? We must answer these critical questions to ensure that our national security
So take
is
everything
not
he says with a grain of salt, because
It is
we're going from where I talked about the congressional hearing last week, which is definitely they want to get the stuff that they're looking for. Arrow, on the other hand, is basically part of the government at this point. It's part of like the Pentagon, and it honestly seems nowadays, guys, like we have 4 branches of government. We don't have 3, we have 4. We have the judicial, the legislative, the executive, and the Pentagon. It actually kind of seems like the way things are going right now. We have 4 branches of the government, not 3. Not 3, we have 4. And the 4th is the Pentagon. So, yeah.
Vital that all agencies
This is the
work in
4th branch of the
tandem to
government.
aggregate data, identify patterns, and develop robust analytical frameworks. Our ability to detect, track, and respond to UAPs requires the latest technology and full cooperation from all government branches. Thanks very much, Dr. Kozlowski, for your attention to this matter, and I look forward to the valuable insights that you and Arrow can provide to our committee, and I yield back. Thank you.
I swear these aren't the
Dr.
same
Kozlowski,
people at all
please make
that
your
were
opening
on the...
statement.
So the weird thing, just immediately out of the gates here, guys, is it honestly doesn't look like any of the people sitting here were any of the people that were on the hearing board last week, which I don't know why they're different, but they are. Like, it seems like the people that are here were not the same people that were invited last time, or that had it, and why are the people from the last hearing not invited to this one? I don't know exactly how Congress works. I don't know how this works at all, guys, because it's the Senate, maybe, so they aren't part of the Senate, because they're part of the House instead of the Senate, because the House and the Senate, even though they're both Congress, you have the House and the Senate, right? So maybe this is something else? I don't really understand what's going on here, but yeah.
Dr. Kozlowski, please make your opening statement.
Thank you, Chairwoman Gillibrand, Ranking Member Ernst, and
Head of
distinguished
Bureau.
members of the subcommittee. It is a pleasure to be here on behalf of the Department of Defense as the new Director of the All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Office. I appreciate the
He's the new
opportunity
Director
to
of
provide
Arrow.
a status update on Arrow's work and respond to your questions about unidentified anomalous phenomenon.
They were supposed to do this quarterly, by the way, when
On
they
behalf
first
of the
formed, and they
department
didn't.
the entire Arrow team, I want to say how grateful we are to Congress for its continued support. Unidentified objects in any domain pose potential threats to U.S. safety and security. Reports of UAP activity, particularly near national security sites, must be treated seriously and investigated with scientific rigor by the U.S. government.
So, even if you don't believe in little green men, guys, even if you don't believe in stuff being here from outside this world, because you are narcissistic and you think that we are the only life in the known universe, even if you believe that doesn't exist, stuff like this still has to be taken seriously, because if there's a technological... anything that's technologically advanced enough where we don't understand it and we can't explain it, but it exists, is a threat to national security, because that, you know, like when you see stuff flying around, little balls flying around, like metal, it's not stuff the government can do, allegedly. That probably means that we have work to do for, you know, like from a national security standpoint. The Army, the military is designed to protect us, right? And if they can't, that's a problem, right? So even if you don't believe in little green men, you don't believe in flying saucers and aliens built the pyramid and whatever, you know, conspiracy theory, it very much, you should at the very least understand the threat to national security and the idea that military that we spend a boatload of our money on has to, you know, take it seriously, because they're required to protect us, right? That's their whole job. So even if you don't believe, this is the two angles here, guys, and why it is very much bipartisan and it brings a bunch of people together, is because even if you aren't for the scientific approach and you don't believe in, you know, the unknown or whatever, you still have to take it seriously, because it could be something that China can do, it could be something that Russia does, right? And that's something that really, really, really is important. I believe the statement, which we didn't really cover because it was just we loosely covered it after last Wednesday. The statement that Arrow released basically just said that, you know, it was basically more of what we saw from last year from their roundup statement. Only they talked to a new sensor network that they're testing out right now, which I don't know why, because we have Doppler radar, but you know, it's something that they're doing, I guess, with their money that they're spending to track stuff. There is let's see. They're just more of the same. They're just doing more and more and more of the same. I just lost track of what it's saying. There's more and more of the same. It's fucking Havana syndrome, guys. It's like beaming me right now. Oh my god, my 20 viewers. The truth is going to come out.
By way of introduction, I'm John Kozlowski. I'm a researcher at my core with.
So basically, they said last week that there's no evidence despite them saying that basically there's no evidence of them being extraterrestrial. There's also no evidence that they're being caused by China or Russia. They're, you know, stuff from China or Russia. So, you know,
an academic background in mathematics, physics, and engineering.
Good for him.
I've spent most of my career.
But it doesn't matter when the government gets to you.
Leading advanced research in the areas of optics, computing, and.
It's level 5 black.
By nature, I am drawn to tough scientific problems, which is what brought me to Arrow and the UAP mission.
He's a Pentagon level black 5, guys.
I'm impressed by the breadth and depth of my team's experience and the framework they've established to rigorously analyze UAP reports. Arrow has taken meaningful steps to improve data collection and retention, bolster sensor development, effectively triage UAP reports, and reduce the stigma of reporting UAP events. Last year, Arrow worked with the DoD's Joint Staff to issue guidance to defense personnel worldwide on how to report UAP observations and is working with the military services regarding implementation. Arrow has also launched a public website that features UAP imagery, case resolutions, material analysis, archival records, and more. These are only a few examples of Arrow's recent progress, and we're just getting started. To date, Arrow has over 1,600 UAP reports in its holdings from across the U.S. government. I'll share a slide in just a few
It's doubled.
With
it's fucking doubled from their last number. They originally said it was like 900. Now it's 1,600? Yeah.
Reports in its holdings for getting started. To date, Arrow has over 1,600 UAP reports in its holdings from across the U.S. government.
By the way, the report they released on Wednesday or Thursday said they had like 900. Now he said 1,600. That's kind of weird. Okay. All right, bro. Because they released... Let's take a look at it, guys. AV Club stuff. Let's go to Arrow. They have it on their website. Also, how am I the only streamer that fucking gives a shit about this? I still don't understand that. June 1st, 2024. 7:57. He just said 1,600. What? What is going on here? So, once again, 757, it is less than that. Reports tell, which is basically less than the report number I think I saw last year, which is they had like 900. And it says 757 here. And he just said, this is the director of Arrow.
And more. These are only a few examples of Arrow. Arrow has also launched a public website that says regarding implementation.
You can't turn on subtitles because they didn't fucking set the language. Dude, amateur hour. I can't turn on auto capture, guys, or auto subtitles because they literally did not turn on, they didn't set the language of the video, so I can't use auto subtitles. PBS, what the fuck? That just, anyways.
Arrow has also launched a public website personnel worldwide on how to report UAP. Points the stigma of reporting UAP. The military services features UAP imagery, case resolutions, material analysis, archival records, and more. These are only a few examples of Arrow's recent progress, and we're just getting started. To date, Arrow has over 1,600 UAP.
What?
Reports progress, and we're just getting started. To date, Arrow has over 1,600 UAP.
They fucking disgusted because they turned off the comments.
satellite fleet.
He is our newly appointed director of the
It is 720p. The subtitles though.
facing this office, including the lack of task.
Arrow has also launched a public website that features more. These are only a few examples of Arrow's recent progress, and we're just getting started. To date, Arrow has over 1,600 UAP reports.
This one has subtitles, guys. Why is this such a big issue? I don't fucking know. Why is this an issue, guys? $1,600 UAP reports. What day was it? 16th? There's no way they just doubled the number of reports from June till today.
Reports in its holdings from
What the
across
fuck
the
is
US
that?
government.
Oh.
I'll share a slide in just a few minutes with updated UAP analytic trends. You'll see that many reports resolve the commonplace objects like birds, balloons, and unmanned
It doesn't matter, by the way.
while others
It doesn't
lack
matter
sufficient data
what
for
is
comprehensive analysis.
resolved. What matters
Although
is the stuff
only
that's
a
not
small
resolved.
percentage of reports received by Arrow are potentially anomalous, these are the cases that require significant time, resources, and a focused scientific inquiry by Arrow and its network of partners. It is important to underscore that, to date, Arrow has not discovered any verifiable evidence of extraterrestrial beings, activity, or technology.
No, they're saying it's not aliens. Verifiable evidence, by the way. It can't be aliens because they don't know. If you can't verify it, it can't be aliens as it goes. So, yeah. So it's kind of a catch-all, by the way, in wording, which is it can't be aliens because you can't verify that it's aliens even though you don't understand it, right? So it can't be aliens.
To accomplish Arrow's national security mission, I have set 3 priorities for the office: building strong partnerships, promoting transparency, and scaling up the work of the office. Arrow cannot do its work alone. Building partnerships across government, academia, industry, and with the public is essential to the success of the office. Strong cooperation with the military services is particularly important.
That is
We
Watcher?
rely on their
Is that his
support
Watcher
to
making sure he
implement-
doesn't say something wrong because he's going to kill him? Look at this. Look at this. Who is she? Who is she, guys? She knows something. Yeah. That's probably his handler, by the way. 120,000 views. 27,000. What was the one we looked at? That was also ass quality. 42,000. Doesn't list the number of views on these guys.
10 moments ago.
Oh, no. Go away. $547.
Our reporting guidance and to amplify the message that there should be zero stigma associated with UAP reporting. We also rely on partnerships with the national labs, the Office of the Director of National Intelligence, FBI, Department of Homeland Security, NASA, all of which play a role in the whole of government effort to address UAP. Recognizing the talent and expertise that reside outside of the government, Arrow will continue to explore new ways to partner with the academic and scientific communities to investigate its most complex UAP cases. A related priority for Arrow is transparency. Our ability to collaborate with key partners, including the scientific community and the public, relies on information sharing, to include downgrading and declassifying UAP-related information. In some
From a
cases,
level that
it
Congress
may be
can't even
unclear to the
access, even
public
though it's
why
technically they have
DoD
access to classified
classified
information.
a piece of information in the first place. Why are photos of seemingly benign objects such as balloons classified? It's often the case that an object or phenomenon isn't itself a security concern, but the location, source, or method used to capture it is still sensitive. Many cases are difficult to quickly release to the public, but are reported to the appropriate committees in Congress that are authorized by law or House and Senate leadership to receive the information. It is important to note that Arrow does not unilaterally
Oh, fucking Kick has me in Overwatch too.
Instead, we work with the originator of a classified
The UAP report from
to ensure that declassifying that record does not inadvertently
there was a UAP
harm
hearing last Wednesday from Congress with a bunch of witnesses, which was well worth watching, and we talked about it, and I have it on my YouTube, where I did a bunch of commentary to it. And this is Arrow talking to Congress, I guess, to kind of dispel some of the stuff that was said on Wednesday, I guess. Like, this feels an awful lot like their response to it.
Security.
Which is why the people on the panel are very different than who was on the panel, or not the panel here. The people that are in what is it even? The people from Congress that are here are different than the people last week that were here, that were there.
The department is committed to declassifying and
He has a
publicly
pin, though.
sharing more information on UAP while protecting sensitive sources and methods. I'll be sharing some newly declassified imagery in just a few minutes. Arrow is also working closely with the National Archives and Records
Normal fuckery? I
Administration to
mean,
make
not
UAP
really,
related
because this is the
documents
government,
publicly
so...
available in a digitized collection.
These aren't yahoos on YouTube. This is people from the government talking about UAP as opposed to someone on the Sci-Fi Channel making a special about the aliens building the pyramids. So, a little bit different.
Meanwhile,
the direction and what they're trying to accomplish, as well as the credibility, is completely drastically different. So, yeah, I mean, you could say it's just fuckery, but I guess
Arrow continues to review the U.S. historical.
I don't cover any of
archives
the random
relating
shit
to
on
UAP.
YouTube for
We
the most part
welcome
because it
any
doesn't make
former
sense.
or current
Basically,
government-
most of the stuff talking about UFOs on websites or on YouTube is literally just people looking for clicks. It's clickbait. It's looking for engagement farming. None of it is trustworthy in any way, shape, or form for the most part. And the stuff that is trustworthy gets completely lost in the abyss of shit. This, on the other hand, is people in the government that actually have jobs designed, in this case, is actually there for specifically resolving UAPs. So actually figuring out whether or not it's not an actual UAP or something that they can't identify properly versus, which, by the way, they generally only talk about the stuff that can resolve as opposed to the stuff they can't resolve. They don't really ever discuss the stuff they can't resolve, which is probably the most telling sign that something isn't quite right going on here, because they obviously their job is to resolve the stuff, but they also are unwilling to share the stuff they can't resolve. So, yeah.
Civilian, contractor, or military service member with relevant information to reach out to us at www.arrow.mil. My final priority is scaling up Arrow's work to match its mission. Arrow needs to bolster the quantity, quality, and diversity of data that it acquires and examines. This means tapping into existing data sources within the interagency while deploying Arrow's own organic sensor capabilities. To the extent that UAP result from the domain awareness gaps, more and better data will help us fill those gaps and help us understand what is being encountered. In closing, Arrow is committed to the highest standards of scientific integrity. We will not foreclose on
He's totally there to make sure he doesn't go off script.
UAP prematurely. We will continue to follow the science and data wherever they lead. We will continue to have an
100%.
open and frank dialogue with Congress in settings like these and in classified briefings.
Heard me talk
We
about
will
her.
continue to keep you fully and currently informed of all UAP information, active or historical. And finally, we will share as much information as possible at the unclassified level to inform the public of Arrow's activities and its findings. We'll be to have an open and frank dialogue with Congress in settings like these and in classified briefings. We will continue to keep you fully and currently informed of all UAP information, active or historical.
So,
and finally,
I want to point out that once again, it is 787 cases on their website up till June 1st, 2024. So you assume this is pretty relevant. And in the video, In the video, he said 1,600 cases. It's double, and I guarantee you it's not doubled since June. That's so something already is not lining up here, guys.
We will share as much information as possible at the unclassified level to inform the public of Arrow's activities and its findings. For now, I'd like to turn to a brief presentation of UAP trends and cases. And then I'd be happy
I'm
to
actually
take
curious to see
questions.
what they're going to say about Go Fast. Wonder if it's just fuckery.
Okay, this chart represents the UAP reporting since 1996.
They're going through, this is released on their website, by the way, if that's the document we looked at.
That sensor placement seems to have caused a bias in our data, both geographic and at altitude. And we're working to resolve that bias in 2025 or reduce that bias through broader engagements with the DoD as well as the IC and the rest of the government, also by incorporating broader sensors into our data and through a public reporting mechanism that we hope to have live in mid-2025. On the
They're supposed to have this stuff live, by the way, all the way, like last year.
It's a bit cut off. We'll see that most of the reporting occurs between 15,000 and 25,000 feet. That happens to be where most of our sensors are. And the reporting above and below that is also often coming from those same platforms. In the center, we'll see that the
This, by the way, is no different than what was released last year. This is all in the
UAS. We're seeing
the data from last year.
Increase in satellites recently, particularly with the launch of mega satellite constellations such as Starlink, where the satellites are catching what is called satellite flares or glint off the sun just after sunset or just before sunrise. And on the rightmost, we'll see the morphology or the shapes that have been reported. The majority have been lights or orbs. We think that there's going to be an increase in the lights.
I don't know about you guys, but he sounds kind of nervous. I don't know about you, but he sounds kind of nervous right now. What do you guys think? I think he sounds kind of nervous. When all he's doing is talking in front of a couple people in Congress, he seems really nervous for some reason, right? You know, this is just another day for him at the office. Why is he so nervous?
With the mega constellations, but our most interesting cases, some of
once again, by the way, this is,
later
he's not saying anything new.
Actually, the shapes such as the triangle.
He's literally just copy pasting what was in this report from last Thursday. Fully scripted.
Or the cylinders. And at the bottom, we'll see the geographic bias.
He's totally his handler.
That I mentioned before, where most of the reports historically had been near the government sites. This bias has been reduced recently by reporting from the FAA. We now get weekly reports from them. And great thank you to our aviators for making those reports. It helps our analysis quite a bit. Okay, a case that we thought would be a transmedium case as it was reported is well known on the outside.
Transmedium is stuff that goes between the ocean and the...
It was data collected in 2013 when a Customs and Border Patrol aircraft observed an object
water and the
flying
sky
near an airport in Puerto Rico. The green line in this diagram is the track that the airplane was taking, and those many crossed lines are the directions that the camera was facing at the time that the airplane was flying around the airport, and we'll watch the video in just a moment. The orange arrow in the center is where we assess that the UAP was actually flying, and transmedium means that it goes from one domain into another. In this case, it looks like it goes from the air into the water and then back into the air. We assess that it was actually flying over the airport the entire time. And this video was taken with infrared, and what appears to be the transmedium part where it goes into the water is actually where the temperature of the water is equal to the temperature of the object, and the camera can no longer distinguish between the two. It's not that the object actually goes into the water.
Sure.
And so we assess that the object, likely a pair of balloons or sky lanterns, was floating at about 7 knots over the airport in December.
Well, I would agree with him that basically, water temperature is very constant, by the way. So it's very unlikely that the temperature of water is going to change. I would kind of agree with that assessment.
And this video was taken with infrared, and what appears to be the transmedium part where it goes into the water
There's no way that's fucking balloons.
is actually where the temperature of the water is equal to the temperature of the object, and the camera can no longer distinguish between the
So that means the temperature of the object either drastically changed or the water temperature drastically changed, which both things seem kind of weird.
What appears to be the transmedium part where it goes into the water is actually where the temperature of the water is equal to the temperature of the object, and the camera can no longer distinguish between the two. It's not that the object actually goes into the water. And so we assess that the object, likely a pair of balloons or sky lanterns, was floating at about 7 knots over the airport and descending to about 200 meters. And this video will be released, and our report will be released later this year.
I mean, so once again, plausible. And the thing is, if it's the temperature change, that means the temperature of this object would have to have drastically changed, or the water temperature, which is extremely unlikely, would have had to have changed, right? And he's saying that the temperatures match each other, so it basically looks like kind of camouflaged, as opposed to it going in the water. I'd believe that, but then it asserts that the temperature of this object is drastically changing, right? And that's also kind of weird.
Is actually where the temperature of the water is equal to the temperature of the
And those look like
object,
balloons
and
to you
the
guys?
camera
Those
can no
don't look
longer
like fucking balloons to
distinguish
me.
between the two. It's not that the object actually goes into the water. And so we assess that the object, likely a pair of balloons or sky lanterns, was floating at about 7 knots over the airport and descending to about 200 meters.
I'd believe the temperature
And
part, but
this
then the
video
rest of that,
will be released, and our report will be released later this year. The Go Fast was captured the public attention.
No, this
congressional
is
attention when it was made public.
There's three really prevalent UAP videos, guys. This is one of them, which is Go Fast, which was recorded by, I believe this is one recorded by multiple people. Which one is the one that was recorded by the 4 people in the F-16s? This is obviously recorded by military in general, but there's one that's actually recorded by multiple people.
In 2017, looks like an object flying very fast over the water, very close to the water. Through a very careful geospatial intelligence analysis using trigonometry, we assess with high confidence that the object is not actually close to the water, but is
Are they going to say
rather
it's a
closer
fucking
to
balloon again?
very fast over the water, very close to the water. Through a very careful geospatial intelligence analysis using trigonometry, we assess with high confidence that the object is not actually close to the water, but is rather closer to 13,000 feet. Diagram here shows as the platform is flying and capturing the object, if it is closer to the platform at a higher altitude, a trick of the eye called parallax makes it look like the object is moving much faster. And so we've written a detailed paper on parallax, released that on our website so that the public can literally check our math on this analysis.
So, they didn't explain, by the way, what it is. He just said that it's at the wrong altitude compared to what they thought it was operating at. Which, you know, you could actually say that it's like right up next to the fucking airplane at a certain point, right? With parallax like this, it could actually be even closer to the airplane than it appears, depending, because you only have one perspective or one way to look at it. So, this doesn't really actually explain anything, but it asserts that it's actually moving slower, but still doesn't explain what the fuck it is in the first place, or how it's moving, like the speed it is, because there's no propulsion. There's nothing that looks like propulsion on it. So, yeah? So what exactly, this doesn't explain fucking anything. It's just, all they're saying is it's just moving slower than it looks like in the video, but they can't explain what it is. What the fuck is that?
And so we've written a detailed paper
I
on
like parallax you can literally Google. It's, I mean, they use this in film, then, you know, for scale and stuff in cinematography. That's not really That doesn't really fucking explain anything, bro. You could say it's parallax all you want, and that you wrote a explanation of what parallax is, but it doesn't actually explain what the object is or how it's moving so fast, especially with no propulsion. So, what? Did not demonstrate any anomalous speed or flight characteristics, except for the fact it's fucking flying really fast, and it doesn't look like any sort of aircraft, and it doesn't have a form of propulsion on it. Yeah. Okay. Okay, bro.
So that the public can literally check our math on this analysis.
Sure.
An interesting case, which I don't believe the public is familiar with.
I saw this on their website.
Captured in 2018 from a UAV flying in the Mediterranean.
Probably because it was classified.
Watching Mount Etna as it was erupting. And it appears that that object is flying through the plume of superheated gas and ash. This was a rather difficult case to resolve. We had to pull in.
I mean, they didn't resolve the last one.
IC and S&T partners, and even reach out to a volcanologist. And through very detailed 3D modeling and pixel by pixel analysis of the object as it's traversing across the clouds, they assessed that the object
That's definitely
was
his handler.
170 meters away from the plume and not flying through it. And to be clear, Aero does not believe every object is a bird, a balloon, or a UAV. We do have some very anomalous objects. It's just the nature of resolution. We can only resolve things that we understand. We do to be very detailed.
But how the fuck did you resolve this?
Captured in 2018 from a UAV flying.
So this is another parallax thing, by the way. They're saying it's closer to the camera than it actually appears. Again, I guess it's their new explanation is it's just a trick of the eye and it's closer than it actually appears on the film.
Watching Mount Etna as it was erupting, and it appears that that object is flying through the plume of superheated gas and ash. It appears that that object is flying through the plume of as it was erupting.
So why do they actually think that it isn't flying through the plume? They just said that they did a pixel-to-pixel analysis of it, and someone said that it's just closer to the camera than it actually is. But it still looks like it's flying through the plume, so... What?
It was erupting, and it appears that that object is flying through the plume of superheated gas and ash.
Maybe.
This was a rather difficult case to resolve. We had to pull in.
Because the resolution is relatively low, it could actually be... So, their interpretation, by the way, which you could go either way with this, their interpretation of this, by the way, is this dot right here.
It was erupting, and it appears that
that looks like it's going through what they're asserting is because the resolution of the FLR, the FLIR, the infrared here is so low, you're actually seeing noise. So what they're asserting as opposed to it, like this isn't even something where I'd actually confidently say that, although apparently I'm not an expert, right? I'm not actually an expert, but there aren't really experts on UFOs anyways. So you know what are you looking at here? What are you looking for credible criteria here?
Maybe flying in the Mediterranean.
So they're asserting that it's because, my guess is because of the resolution, what looks like it going through the plume is actually noise in the camera, much like what you just saw with the last video. Although that one they explained with temperature, but it doesn't explain the vast temperature differences that caused it in the first place because they didn't even bother, I guess, looking at that, or maybe they decided it was good enough. A lot of this just seems like it's good enough.
As it was erupting, and it appears that that...
So what they're asserting here, by the way, is this is an error in, my guess is this is error in the resolution of the video, which makes it look like it's actually going through the cloud when in fact it's noise. That it loses track because of the resolution. It loses track because of the way pixels work. Sometimes they'll get garbled with noise, right? It's losing track of the object, and it doesn't actually go through the plume when in fact it's actually the resolution phasing out. I would actually say this is absolute bullshit because it is like with artifacting through resolution, like you can see here with the banding and stuff. I hope you guys can see that because you're looking through my stream of a stream, right? You would be able to see it phase in and out, and it's not doing that. So,
flying in the Mediterranean, watching Mount Etna as
playback speed, there it is. I fucking do this for Overwatch all the time. That is 100% going through the fucking plume. Maybe. I don't know. Like, I would definitely not say confidently enough that that is error in the video itself. Like right here? Look at it right here. You can occasionally see it like phasing in and out, right? Like that'd be a resolution thing. Right there, like it literally looks like it's disappearing. Also, still doesn't explain what the fuck this is, by the way. I don't know. I don't know, bro. I could possibly believe what they're saying, but it doesn't explain what it is. Possibly believe what they're saying, and it's error in the resolution, error in the video, and therefore it has to be like closer to the camera, right? Because that would explain how it's moving so fast again with parallax. But I don't think so. Maybe I definitely would not. I would not put money on that one being the correct explanation of that either.
This was a rather difficult case to resolve. We had to pull in support from a number of IC and S&T partners and even reach out to a volcanologist.
It kind of feels like they're just looking for confirmation biases at this point.
3D modeling and pixel-by-pixel analysis of the object as it's traversing across the clouds. They assessed that the object was actually 170 meters
Totally
away
is Handler.
from the plume and
So
not
parallax again.
flying through it. And to be clear, Aero does not believe every object is a bird, a balloon, or a UAV. We do have some very anomalous objects. It's just the nature of resolution. We can only resolve things that we understand. So we're now working on additional products where we can inform the public, Congress, and others of the objects as we're studying them, rather than once we've resolved them.
Hey!
With that, I'll take your questions.
Thank you, Dr. Kozlowski. I appreciate your
they showed a couple cases of stuff that they resolved and nothing that they haven't resolved again.
testimony. It's been widely reported that individuals claiming first-hand knowledge of unreported UAP programs have been reluctant to engage with Aero. What message do you have for those individuals, and how will you work to gain their trust?
AV Club microphone, guys.
I would let them know that Congress has gone out of its way to create the organization Aero specifically to conduct these sorts of investigations and has uniquely empowered them.
But over the last 2 years, it's kind of shown that it might not actually be trying to do that. And I would, well, some of these seem plausible, guys. They don't completely explain what the fuck's going on here, and I wouldn't even confidently say that it resolves them either. It's just, yeah, Alec, this is our interpretation. It's actually closer to the camera than it actually is. And yeah, that's it. Come on.
And we take that responsibility and those authorities very seriously. And so we have been reaching out to a broader community, encouraging folks who had talked to Aero personnel in the past and maybe felt uncomfortable to come back to us. We've met with several of their interlocutors and a couple of firsthand witnesses, and we are making great progress. And those firsthand witnesses that we have talked to do feel comfortable coming back to us. And so we hope that more folks that do have information would go to...
So I don't actually, by the way, I don't know who that is, but in the case of someone that's being manipulated, coerced, or, you know, like basically under the gun, you have someone closer to them because then it applies a threat to them. So if you feel as though they're going to go off script or say something they aren't supposed to, someone that has basically authority over them or represents basically someone that's trying to keep them under their thumb, the closer they are, basically the more pressure you can apply to the person, right? The more they'll feel like they can't say anything. It's why if there's cases of abuse, domestic or otherwise, you try to separate two individuals that, you know, when you feel like someone's being abused by someone else, you separate two individuals so the person can come out. If they're next to the person, they'll feel under threat of being unable to say, you know, things that they feel are either right or that they should be able to say. Once again, I don't know who this is, but this person very, very much feels as though it's somehow related to this guy, and it doesn't feel like I don't know. I'm just completely making shit up at this point, but it doesn't feel as though it's a positive relationship. Let's go with that. A positive relationship. I don't know who that is. No idea who the fuck that is, but yeah.
www.
She also smirks on occasion if you're missing that, depending on what he's saying. Even though she tries to frown constantly, she 100% is smirking occasionally.
www.aero.mil. fill out the form, send it
Who
to
is
us so
that?
we can bring them in for interviews and add their information to our investigations.
Thank you. I recently just read your report from March, your historic
AV Club
report,
microphones.
and I would encourage anyone who's interested in this
We looked
topic
at it
to
already.
read the report, because when I was asked by a reporter about it,
Did
they
you even
said,
know
well,
that they had a
doesn't show
report on
any
Thursday
evidence
last
of
week?
secret programs that have aliens. That's not how I read the report.
Oh,
What I read,
that being said, is they also talked about basically how there's no government cover-up. Is basically what it came down to. There's no evidence of government cover-up.
report is, and I was asked by a reporter about it, they said, well, it doesn't show any evidence of secret programs that have aliens. That's
It
not
doesn't
how I
also say
read
it doesn't
the
have
report.
them.
What I read the report is the U.S. government took sightings extremely seriously over the last 75 years, put some of the greatest minds ever to analyze these cases because they assess them as some deeply unknown phenomena that may or may not cause threats, that may or may not be related to adversaries, but are certainly something that the U.S. government needed to know about. And what I read from this report is that we resolved numbers of cases, but in almost every instance, whether it was in the 40s, the 50s, the 60s, the 70s, the 80s, the 90s, the noughts, half the cases were unresolved. So I don't think this is an example of the government not taking these cases seriously. I think this is an example of our government spending 75 years taking these cases very seriously. And interestingly, for the group that put together this report, they didn't have access to any firsthand reporting. And so from my perspective, for whistleblowers and people who want to come in, please come in, because the purpose of AARO is so that the senators can do our job to provide oversight, accountability, and transparency. We find it very concerning that our pilots, that our Navy officers, that people who have sightings of UAPs are denigrated, are somehow dismissed or disregarded. They need to be protected. This is a huge issue for national security because, number one, we don't have domain awareness, which is very problematic. Number two, we don't have domain superiority if we don't understand how different UAPs are flying, what technology they're using, what their mission
Elephant
is,
in the room.
what their purpose is. And at the base level, we have so many UAPs around our bases, around our military sites, around our nuclear sites, that it's deeply disturbing that adversaries at a minimum could be using these opportunities to spy, to glean intelligence that will harm our long-term national security. So I'm grateful that you're taking the whistleblowers very seriously. I'm grateful that AARO is trying its best to integrate the private sector, the public, into their work. Interestingly, in this hearing, we heard that the FAA is now working hand in glove, which is very helpful. We want this public-facing accessibility to be put in place by 2025 so that people can upload their videos, their data, their reports. I've met with people who have followed this issue for decades, and they have thousands of examples, thousands of pieces of data that ultimately I want uploaded into AARO so you can cross-reference historic information with current information, because this group at AARO are the best scientists that we can find anywhere, and they will do the work that's needed to be done. So I just want to thank you for that. And then with my last 42 seconds, can you tell us about any of the cases that merit further analysis by your IC and science and technology partners?
Not further analysis. What about the ones that they can explain but have already tried to analyze? Although that's kind of what she's saying, but not really the same thing, because this can be looked at something where they kind of already figured it out, but, you know, maybe they have to look at it a little bit more. I would actually say the fucking plume video is most definitely something that probably shouldn't be considered resolved, but apparently they considered it resolved, so, you know.
What is it that makes these cases anomalous? And a large number of reports are placed in the active archive because AARO does not have enough information. What might prompt you to reopen a case like that, and do you have any examples?
Sure.
Nope.
I'll start with the active archive case. So that is just the place where we put cases where we don't have enough
What about some of those
scientific
cases?
information to resolve them at that time. But
What
we're
about
always
the cases
looking
you've
for
looked at, huh? That you
opportunities
can't
to
resolve?
correlate them to new cases that come in, as the new cases come in, as well as enrich those cases
Totally is Handler.
with additional data.
Why does she
We
look
do
like
have
she's
one
smiling right now?
example that I'm aware of where we were able to correlate a number of observations of interesting lights in the sky, and eventually we concluded that it was multiple people observing Starlink flares, just as an example.
Starlink didn't exist prior to, what was it, 21 or 20? When did Starlink first launch satellites, guys? Yeah, that's going to be the go-to, by the way. That's the new weather balloon is Starlink. 2019. May 23rd, 2019. So basically everything after that point, they're probably going to point out being Starlink satellites.
Cases that merit analysis that we're working on right now. One we might be in the process of
It's
resolving.
parallax, guys. It's not actually close to the camera. It's actually further away from the camera. You just can't figure it out. It's parallax. It's all parallax.
But nonetheless is still interesting. The first one,
Literally, the new weather balloon is parallax and Starlink satellites. That's it.
Officer out west, where he observed a large orange orb floating several hundred feet above the ground, a couple miles away. He went to investigate what was going on with that orb. And as he was pulling up to the location where he thought would be below the orb, about 40 to 60 meters away from some object the area was well lit, he saw a blacker than black object. He said it was about the size of a Prius, 4 to 6 feet wide. And as he got 40 to 60 meters away from the object, it tilted up about 45 degrees, and then it shot up vertically. He says 10 to 100 times faster than any drone he's ever seen before. And it did that without making a sound, as far as he could tell from inside of his vehicle. And just as it left his field of view through his windshield, then it emitted very bright red and blue lights that illuminated the inside of his vehicle as brightly as if someone had set off fireworks just outside his vehicle or street flares. So that's anomalous because of the size of the vehicle with the great acceleration. And when he came back to investigate,
But there's no video. So this is kind of like, it's cool to believe shit like this, right? But there are tons of testimonials like this, and it doesn't really. It's a sheriff, so that holds more credibility than just a rando on YouTube, right? Or your friend's friend knows a friend, right? It holds more credibility, but at the same time, if there's no actual, video or sensor data, what is it? That doesn't actually mean a whole lot of anything, right? So, testimonials are obviously really important, especially if they collaborate what someone else has, especially if they have a video. So if you get two people in two different places of origin collaborating, that's one of the reasons I like the Go Fast video or the Tic Tacker. One of them literally had two tandem jets with 4 people in them collaborating the same thing from basically, relatively two different perspectives, even though they're next to each other more or less, collaborating the same thing. And you can look at one person's personal opinion, it doesn't really mean much of anything, but if you have multiple people, especially when they're unrelated or not close to each other reporting the same thing, that's really when a personal testimony really starts to mean something, right? But in this case, he's describing basically, it is cool and everything, he's describing something where there's no video, where the UAP hearing from last Wednesday, the new one, which is highly worth watching, by the way. I don't watch any shit from Congress. It's highly worth watching. One of the guys described that they actually had video as it was another orange orb, or was it a glaring white orb? I think it was a glaring white orb in the Indian Ocean, I think it is. That a carrier group was basically observing it, and they have a bunch of telemetry on it, but that's not stuff they can actually share. So the weird thing is, in the past, when we've looked at stuff like this, guys, and Arrow has testified, weirdly enough, the stuff that, whistleblowers are talking about and, the well-known UAP stuff that they're talking about isn't stuff that Arrow actually talks about when they actually get on stage here, where they're like, hey, this is stuff we can actually talk about and share with you, but then they don't actually ever, intermingle with one. It's probably one of the first examples, by the way, of them trying to debunk kind of something older, which was the Go Fast, and I don't really fucking believe that one, but, they're the experts. Maybe it's actually a good example. You probably could actually put the video through. You could put the video through AI, and assuming you have the best, basically, version of it, best resolution version of it, you could probably put it through an AI model and figure out whether or not it's parallax or all. Maybe you can even do that with a AI model, the video analysis. You can now do video analysis with Grok. Let's see. Grok 1.5. Video analysis AI. ChatGPT Pro. I'd actually be kind of curious, guys. I am actually legitimately curious. I can do this with my own fucking tools that I have access to. I'm actually curious if I put it through there, if it would actually agree with them that that video is actually an example of parallax. Which it might be, and once again, it depends on how in-depth the simulation of the model is, because, you know, it eventually at some point it's just going to make a call on it, and it's not going to analyze every frame or every pixel, or, you know, like AI or simulations, or in case AI is using a simulation. Simulations are often a case of trading off computational power for accuracy, and you are eventually going to reach a case just like with them. The accuracy, by the way, the accuracy in this case is they're experts. And they're only going to have so much computational power between the experts to actually achieve something. So, and by the way, she still looks like she's fucking smirking. I swear to God, she looks like she's smirking. 100% is Handler. I have no idea what that is, by the way. But, yeah, like, there's only so much resolution you can go through in terms of even people. But I wonder if you actually put that video into Grok or into any sort of AI, it would actually agree with the analysis that, the height difference analysis that he came to. Which, if it doesn't agree, what does it actually say is actually more curious. I can actually legit do this with tools I have available to myself, because I'm not an expert, tools I have available to myself, and figure out whether or not basically what he's saying is bullshit, right? Or more or less, I'd put a lot more, I don't know, that'd be kind of curious. How much credibility or faith would you put in an AI model, not even Grok, an AI model in figuring out whether or not this is actually agreeable testimony that it's actually an example of parallax. Being closer, and he didn't even explain what it was, by the way. He didn't explain what it was at all. He said it's case closed because it's parallax, but it doesn't explain what the thing is or how it's flying or its propulsion, which doesn't exist, like, at all. But he said it's an example of parallax.
Investigate that area. He found no disturbance of the ground beneath it.
Anyways, segue with segue.
So that's one interesting one. Another one comes to us from southeast.
But that's,
US,
once again, that's just testimony.
And when he came back.
But where are the video ones? He literally could be showing a video right now of stuff that he can't explain, right? Where are those? Why can't he show those?
To investigate that area, he found no disturbance of the ground beneath it. So that's one interesting one. Another one comes to us from southeast U.S. There was a U.S. facility where 2 cars of government contractors were leaving the facility around 9 o'clock.
Totally smiling.
They looked up in the sky and saw a large metallic cylinder about the size of a commercial in the government contractors on the ground beneath it. So that's one interesting one. Another one comes to us from southeast U.S. There was a U.S. facility where 2 cars of government contractors were leaving the facility around 9 o'clock in the morning.
So tandem. It's better if you have multiple points further away from each other.
A large metallic cylinder about the size of a commercial airplane, and it was stationary. They observed that there was a very bright white light behind or around the object. They saw it stationary for 15 to 20 seconds, and then it disappeared. Obviously, an object that large, stationary, unless it's a blimp, is unusual, but then disappearing, we can't explain how that would happen. And then the last case was interesting. We had a aircraft that was flying parallel to another aircraft, and it was capturing imagery of it, and a small looking object appeared to fly between the 2 of them much faster than them. Through very careful analysis, we think that the object might have actually been further away than the object that it was videotaping.
Parallax again. It's fucking parallax. It's parallax to Starlink. That's it, guys.
But it requires very careful analysis to come to those conclusions, and we don't have the metadata to support that yet.
Senator Ernst.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair.
I mean,
and Dr.
basically at this point, you could just say it's literally just parallax, right? It's just always going to be parallax. It's just always further away.
Dr. Kozlowski, you mentioned that you do work with the intelligence community. You're working with the FAA. Has Aero involved academia? Have you gone to universities? Do you have outside organizations that you are working with? And if so, can you walk us through some of that collaboration?
Sure. Right now, most of our collaborations that are veering towards academia are with university-affiliated research centers associated with universities or with FFRDCs. Our partnership with universities, I would say, is lacking right now. We have some one-off associations with university professors. However, that's our fault, and it's largely because of the need to declassify data. We need to give the professors something to work on before we can really engage them. So we're working significantly on a declassification effort. We've hired a number of declassification experts, and we're going to be trying to get cases like the ones that I just discussed here declassified so that we can engage with the universities on a regular basis of professors. However, that's our fault, and it's largely because of the need to declassify data. We need to give the professors something to work on before we can really engage them. So we're working significantly on a declassification effort. We've hired a number of declassification experts, and we're going to be trying to get cases like the ones that I just discussed here declassified so that we can engage with the universities on a regular basis and provide them the data. Talking to a scientist without data is going to be rather disappointing. So hopefully in 2025, we'll be increasing those efforts.
Right. Well, I appreciate that. I think there's a huge pool of talent out there that you should tap into. Given the public's growing concern and interest in UAPs, how do you balance the need for the transparency that our public is demanding with the potential risks of revealing classified defense information?
I mean, like, arguably before the Arrow website or Arrow itself got compromised, they did actually occasionally upload videos of UAP cases that are unresolved, right? The one that I always go back to is this round ball one. And it is entirely, completely possible that they can legit declassify this stuff by covering all the little icons. It's not hard. It's not hard to do, guys. Right? That, by the way, there is absolutely no way to fucking explain this thing at all. There's absolutely no way that you can ever explain it. It's actually closer to the camera lens. You know, like, you could say it's parallax, guys. This is actually parallax. It's another example of parallax. It's just it's closer to the camera than it appears, so it's not actually moving that fast. But it still doesn't explain how a fucking metallic ball is flying through the fucking air, right? It doesn't matter if you say that it could be parallax and it's moving slower, because it still doesn't explain what the fuck it is in the first place, right? And it's pretty clearly that it's, you know, it's not something you could resolve, because you can't say what the fuck this is. Love bringing that one up, because it's legit, like, just...
Yeah, that's always a concern that's on the front of our minds. We want to make sure that we're deconflicting both on potential U.S. programs and what the IC might be tracking for adversarial programs as we're aggregating that information.
He's smiling more now.
Share it. However, oftentimes we can remove the discussion of the unidentified and anomalous activity from the sensitive information that our partners are concerned with. And that's usually going to be the platforms that the information was collected with, if it is truly anomalous. And so we have our partners working alongside in the declassification of that data.
Very good. And then without having to explain the UAP, what do we need to begin really doing about them? What precautions can we take? What should we be doing about them?
I think that removing the stigma, reducing the stigma is the first step. We need to make sure that we're having honest and transparent conversations about them, because if we're hesitant to discuss them, then it opens the opportunity for an adversary, as you had mentioned earlier, Senator Gillibrand, to come in and conduct some activity. So we need to do that, and we need to have...
He's 100% smiling more.
And understand that whether it is a UAP or a counter-UAS issue, that we need to have that complete domain awareness around our national security facilities.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Just a couple of follow-up questions. We didn't discuss in this setting the most recent UAP or UAS encounter with bases like Langley. I know that the incursion by UASs that were publicly made available through the press that took over 2 weeks was fairly alarming to senators, because there was a question about what technology they were using. There was a question about why it was so hard to detect. Can you speak to how Arrow will be integrated into the review of these kinds of cases, and how you can be helpful to both the intelligence community and the Department of Defense in analyzing or being able to more quickly analyze what's knowable and what's not knowable, so that because once you do identify it as a drone, for example, it then goes to the right department at DoD or the intelligence community to assess, deal with, or take down as the incident might be. But to talk to us a little bit about what role you can play for both the DoD and the IC community in these kinds of incursions that are happening when we don't know what tech is being used and we don't understand a flight pattern or we don't understand how they arrive and depart in the way they do.
Yeah, we are generally going to be supporting them through an advisory capacity as an organization that naturally needs to conduct baseline experiments of the environment to see what normal looks like, whether it's balloons, birds, anomalous activity, or drones flying through an environment. We're going to gather a lot of data that will allow us to characterize an environment very well and then detect and follow those tracks, hopefully rather efficiently. There's also a lot of overlap in the type of sensors that are going to be used.
Basically just describing their job.
Mission and the UAP mission, whether that's active detection like radars or passive like cameras. And so as Aero is trying to push the bounds on detectability for UAP, we're hopefully going to have best practices that we can also provide to the counter UAS. And potentially we might have additional technologies that we can offer them to support.
This feels an awful lot like the people asking them questions on Congress aren't actually trying to get answers, but rather are sticking to some sort of, I don't want to say agenda, but rather some sort of, they're trying to highlight the benefits of Aero and what it's doing currently as opposed to stuff that it shouldn't, like it should be doing, but it currently isn't. And kind of curious, this whole conversation and exchange here seems an awful lot like the people on the board right there that are asking him questions aren't really asking him questions that really matter for the most part. The one probably big one was the first lady that asked them basically when we can get information on stuff that can't actually, like we don't have access to the unresolved cases, right? Why can't we access the unresolved cases or have things looked at that they're unresolved? But a whole lot, like most of this actually just appears to be almost rhetorical, I want to say. It feels like it's a press conference for them to talk about what they're doing as opposed to discussing things that they haven't done that they should be doing.
I'd like to just address a little bit of reporting and feedback. As you know, Aero is required to develop a mechanism for the public to report UAP information. Now that that mechanism for current and former military, civilian, and contractor personnel has been established, can you speak to Aero's plans for a public reporting mechanism, and how did Aero arrive at this approach, and were other options considered? And second, for pilots and operators who have reported a UAP, what feedback, if any, has Aero provided to these individuals related to what Aero is doing with their report and how the report has been resolved? How does such feedback or lack thereof impact the frequency of UAP reporting?
Yeah, the public reporting mechanism that we've decided to go with is going to look similar to the reporting mechanism that we currently have for historical events, where we're going to ask folks to go to our website, download a PDF form, put in the narrative for their account, and then email that to us with accompanying media. Usually it'll probably be imagery. We went with that option because we thought, one, we could do it rather quickly, we could do it efficiently, make it very cost-effective
And the email
for the
box,
taxpayer,
guys.
but also we think we can gather all the data that we're going to need to conduct our analysis, and then we're going to have that feed into an automated processing system that will cross-correlate that against all the other public reported cases as well as the U.S. government cases. We did consider a number of other reporting mechanisms as to include automated online forms as well as cell phone apps, and we ultimately decided that this would be the safest, cheapest, and easiest to maintain in the future while protecting the private information of the individuals who are reporting. Regarding the feedback from
They don't have anyone on board that can actually make a good system.
Right now, we don't have a good feedback mechanism. It's fairly informal. We're working on building a case management system that Aero will use at all classification levels, and hopefully in that we'll be able to provide feedback as the case is going through the resolution process. We have multiple phases. Then the folks who report that, whether it's a pilot at the classified level or someone potentially reporting through another mechanism, they'll get that automated feedback. And then it is not determined at this point yet how much information we'll be able to include in that feedback where it is in the process. It'll depend on the classification of the resolution of the case.
My final question is there anything that you need to tell the Senate that you need from us, whether it's funding, whether it's support, whether it's legislation? Is there any requests that Arrow has of us or anything else you need to brief us on for us to be able to do our jobs to protect our service members as well as integrate public interest and public data and information into the future analysis efforts of Arrow?
So first of all, I want to say thank you again. I think that the authorities that we have are remarkable, and I think that we are well
He's totally
resourced as an
smirking.
office. The only ask that I would have is that you continue to champion us, particularly with witnesses, encourage them to come forward and report to us so that we can have a more fulsome investigation of the potential historic or ongoing legacy programs.
Thank you so much.
She actually smiled now.
Hearing adjourned.
That's 100% his handler, by the way. That is 5,000% his handler. They're happy about something for some reason. Seriously, let's take a look real quick here.
Hearing adjourned.
And I think that we are well resourced as an office. The only ask that I would have is that you continue to champion us, particularly with witnesses, information and preparing to share it. However, and I think that we are well resourced as an office. The only ask that I would have is that you continue to champion us, particularly coming back to us. And so we hope that more folks that do have information would go to
protect our service
include in that feedback where it is in the process. It'll depend on the classification of the resolution of the case.
I really wonder who that is. Okay. I was actually kind of curious. I was looking at his brow here and looking for sweat levels, by the way, and not seeing anything. Okay. And there's no discussion whatsoever of the crash retrieval or reverse engineering program. There was one in May earlier this year, right? Where Arrow released a statement that said that they had none of their contacts basically, like, there was no government crash retrieval program. It's basically just a denial of there ever being a crash retrieval program. But then there's even more people that are coming out that worked with the government that's saying that there is. So at some level here, it feels an awful lot like there is a disagreement among information, which is probably why people thought Arrow was compromised in the first place, is because not only are they not addressing basically the major concerns or talking about them for the most part, they just like take the complete opposite side of the field no matter what, and it's kind of sort of weird considering how much information there is. Quick observation: why was he not put under oath? That's also curious. Not that it really matters that much. Most committees rarely require witnesses to testify under oath legislative hearings. I mean, you'd still do it, right? Yeah, I mean, it doesn't matter if most don't. Why wouldn't you do it anyways if it's actually a sensitive hearing? Yeah, why wasn't he put under oath? Never seen so much bullshit in my life. Yeah, it was basically reiterating basically what's on their website. All denying anomaly rebuffing office. Apparently now balloons and seagulls can pull 3,000 Gs and maneuver around F-18 and F-22 without breaking sound barrier. Yeah. What a load of nonsense. Instead of discussing incredible information released last week, the Nervous Clown was busy downplaying recently published UAP videos. Yeah. Yeah, so I wasn't the only one that picked up on him being really nervous, which is kind of curious. Once again, I don't know who this lady is right here, but I'm pretty sure that's his handler. Hey, someone will figure that out. I can't. Returned error. No way. No way, guys. Returned error, guys. What do you think that's about? My comment can be deleted?
Level.
My comment's deleted. Good. My comment's deleted. You're watching my shit get censored in real time, guys. The thing about like censorship is it doesn't fucking tell you why it gets deleted. Yeah, it got deleted. One I just posted, by the way, which I copy pasted my comment literally got fucking deleted.
We're working on building a case.
I hit post. God, I absolutely fucking hate, like, if this is being done by AI, I absolutely fucking hate how there's no response to why my shit's getting censored. So I can't fix it and remove the parts that are, I guess, controversial? Why is this message getting censored, guys? You guys legit watched me post the post and then it got removed. So why is it getting removed? And if this is AI doing it, it's making it through the system because it posted, right? It made it through the system, so someone's actually removing it?
Cheapest and
Holy fucking shit. Now it's sticking. Good thing I copy pasted that. Yeah, whenever you see fucking errors, guys, make sure you copy paste your shit, because otherwise it fucking eats it. Dude is obviously stressed and hiding stuff. Dude, a legit fucking... Oh my god, do I have to fucking open up Notepad? I fucking hate the day and age of censorship, guys. This is absurd. Mainly because it just removes your shit and you don't ever get to see it.
system that will cross-correlate that against all the other public reported cases as well as the U.S. government cases. We did
Why is Susan Go a PsyOps strategist running all the internal comms on UAP? Is that the main lady? Yeah, like the whole panel here, guys, this seemed completely rigged. Go, I think? None of these guys were the same people, by the way, and he didn't even talk. None of these guys are the same people that were on last Wednesday's hearing. Is that the person on his left? Right? His right, but left in the camera. LinkedIn. Is that her? Oh, it's Miss Ernest, Miss Gillibrand. So is this Miss Gill? It is Department of Defense, apparently. Fuck did my tab just go? There we go. Nope. There we go. Looking like another 70 years will go by without full disclosure. Yeah, it kind of feels that way. It almost feels like there needs to be a public version of Arrow, because Arrow actually works too closely with the Department of Defense. So it feels like there needs to be a version of Arrow that doesn't actually use military. It's Parallax. It's not Swamp Gas, it's Parallax. Jesus just chilling in the back. Oh, him? There's a very interesting crowd of individuals at this hearing, guys, compared to the last one. My comment gun?
National Labs, the Office of the Director of National Intelligence.
Let's do the test, guys. So you actually have to do shit like this now. We open a new tab. We go to the video in incognito. Let's see if fucking Google is lying to me. Nope, it's still here. My first comment got deleted. My second comment is still here for some reason. Isn't that weird? Ben is so-so but nervous, trembly, shaken. Yeah, no shit. He is very clearly, he is very, very clearly, nervous about something. Very nervous about something. Just a bunch of randos, right? Why should he be nervous about anything? I know he's talking about his backside. Also, people like this, would even, like, swearing people in even matter? Like, obviously, if you break a sworn an oath, it can send you to jail, right? But, like, is this even, would people like that even care? Yeah, NBC actually, or ABC actually covered this. Yeah, all they did was talk about... He basically just talked about this. This was released on last Thursday. They talked... Almost everything he said at the hearing just now was stuff that was found on this. They released it literally a day after. Literally a day after the UAP hearing last week. Saying the instruments in the F-18s don't track. I think it was the F-16 don't track and they go fast. Don't track accurately. Yeah. It's Parallax, guys. It's always Parallax. Parallax and Starlink now. Real. I don't edit the cut. There's other videos with a cut. It does, like, what's wrong with you? Literally just fast forward, dude. You literally just fast forward till they start talking. Why don't you talk about the fucking jellyfish video? You can't find a way to debunk it yet? No shit. And I don't even, like, that didn't even explain, just saying it's Parallax, which they could literally use that for almost every single explanation at this point. It's a catch-all. If they're going to use Parallax as an explanation, you're going to explain away the jellyfish video with Parallax too? Yeah. Zero action follow-up to the previous hearing, minimal staff, no accountability. What happened here? Yeah, no shit. And it feels like the questions that the people were asking on the panel or on the committee were, I think it's, you'd have a panel and then a committee, right? The people on the committee weren't actually asking any sort of, like, you know, aggressive questions at all. Narrative always stays inside the bumper lanes. Gillibrand had every opportunity to ask questions that would shake the carpet. She is now compromised. Yeah. It did seem like they were very, very hand in hand with each other, right? Yeah. I hope everyone knows not to reach out to Arrow. We don't need more people being silenced. Yeah, no shit. This is really fucking weird. So we were seeing the congressional hearing packed, only for the Senate to be completely empty at the Senate hearing. So there's Senate and Congress, right? Or Senate and the House of Representatives, but they're both Congress. The congressional hearing can include senators, I believe. November 14th hearing? No, that'd be on the November 14th. Doesn't count if you're not under oath. Yeah, no shit. Yeah, like him talking about just like your story with your grandpa means jack shit. Jack fucking shit. They literally have videos and stuff they can't explain, and he could bring it to his PowerPoint presentation where he showed other stuff, and instead he talked about a random sheriff that drove somewhere and saw a black thing that rise into the sky. That doesn't, like, yeah. Lanterns and balloons, yep. Parallax and Starlink. Not balloons, Parallax and Starlink. Yeah, this is literally right after the Wednesday hearing. This is totally intentional. Which, by the way, is fully worth watching, by the way, compared to whatever the fuck this is. This feels like a press conference to raise credibility of Arrow. Solve Arrow, it's cover up his shit. Yeah, this meeting, guys, it seemed like the last guy, I forgot his name, the guy that was balding with the glasses. I forgot what that guy's name is, but it feels an awful lot like this is just another version of the last guy. And she is 100% his handler. I don't know what the fuck she's doing, but she's 100% this guy's handler. The entire thing felt super, super fucking scripted. And the weird thing is about the hearing on last Wednesday, they said this guy was actually pretty good and actually on the right path of things. I don't know about that at this point. 100% his handler. Okay. All right, guys. I didn't actually expect to watch this today, and fully going into this, I expected this to be bullshit, and it basically was. It didn't really address any of the major points that they talked about on Wednesday last week. It basically just talked about this, which was released the day after last week's Wednesday hearing, which is their basically yearly report, right? Which is almost identical to the year before. The only big difference is they basically just talked about them making a sensor net, which they have in testing right now, and they plan to deploy a little bit of this guy right here. But kind of curiously, we already have something that literally can detect birds and is already basically deployed across the entire U.S. And it's sensitive enough to detect birds. So, yeah. Yeah. Maybe I'm thinking a little bit too much about this, and, you know, National Weather Service obviously is not in the game of tracking UAPs, but they 100% could be. We have today is a chance of rain with a side of UAPs, by the way. This is actually, if you guys didn't know, I think a lot of people don't understand that the weather tracking radar system has been in place for a long time. And it's been pretty much fucking everywhere. It's pretty much everywhere. And it's sensitive enough where I remember on the news them talking about this, where they actually had to censor out birds because you could actually see them on the Doppler radar. Yeah. And it's sensitive enough to do stuff like this, but you can't use this to detect things like UAPs flying around. And almost all of it is interlinked because it needs to be for the weather system. So, yeah. Stuff and things and stuff, guys. This is actually pretty cool, though, if you think about it. It's like a flock of birds as they fly up into the air. That's what they look like. To Doppler. A roost ring. Unique donut pattern known as the roost ring is the result of birds departing their roosting site in all directions, roughly equal densities. As they travel further from the roosting site and reach higher altitudes, they are detected by radar until they either rise above or drop below the radar beam. Some species are typically returned to the same roosting sites even evening, which is situated near bodies of water. As a result, the roost rings are often observed in the same locations on radar over the course of several mornings. They can do that now with birds. They can do that now with birds, please. Come on now. Okay. Let's see. And then the rest of the articles here are literally just going to be summaries of what we just watched. And I think it's worth watching it because the summaries don't actually collaborate. They're give you information on what's actually happening completely. This was actually interesting. The panel was actually interesting. Okay. Alrighty, guys. Let's see. What time is it? We're going to make a highlight of this real quick here, which shouldn't take that much time. This is worth it. We covered yesterday's. Oh, let's see if my comment's deleted. Let's see if my comment's deleted.
Public is essential to the success.
No, still here. How the... Why did it do... Are they watching live right now, guys? Are they watching live right now? The first time, it didn't delete right away, by the way. If it's censored, by the way, from the automated system, it won't post at all, right? And if it's censored automatically, it also, like, if you try to resubmit the same thing, you'll basically see it as spam and it'll delete it again, right? The very fact that it didn't is a pretty good indicator that it's not actually seen as spam and someone manually deleted it. And it wasn't me. It wasn't me, so you guys literally saw it live when I tried editing it. It basically didn't allow me because the comment was removed already. Yeah. So, I don't know. I don't know, guys. Just, you know, whatever. Fucking crazy. I have like 20 people watching me. Heard. Okay, let's make a highlight out of this. And no, it doesn't take that much time because we have phenomenal tools to do so. What do you even call this? Like, the naming scheme, guys, for this is literally, it is all over the place. It is absolutely, like, every single name for this hearing has been different everywhere I've went. There's no way to formally search for what's going on here. So, like, how do I name, like, how do I name this at all? I don't know.
Things with chemo.
To catch the super.
Also, we watched the SpaceX launch lower booster. Hopefully, kind of like There's more to it, which we're going to take a look at in a second, but basically, guys, hope you guys are a wonderful evening so far, guys. Tonight we're going to be doing a pod. Alrighty, guys, good evening. What's happening with it? So they're explaining it right now, basically how even fucking tools Congress. Stuff and things and stuff, guys. This is actually pretty cool, though, if you think about it. It's like the return to the same route. Interesting. We're going to pull out of this real quick here, which shouldn't take... It didn't delete right away, by the way. If it's censored, by the way, from the automated system, it won't post at all, right? And if it's censored automatically, it also, like, if you try to resubmit the same thing, you'll basically see it as... Also, I want to point out, guys, sometimes if you even talk about censoring, it'll actually censor your comment. Just pointing that out. It happened before, I think a couple days ago, when I was actually posting on someone's video for censorship in WoW. I posted a comment on it and immediately got deleted. Prior to me, basically, it never got posted at all. It was just gone. And lo and behold, innocent me didn't think to actually copy-pasted it, which I did with this last article. I didn't think to copy-paste it because I thought it would be fine, right? It actually just got deleted immediately. And the shittiest thing about the fucking automated system is it won't tell you that something's wrong and ask you to resubmit it after correcting it. It'll just fucking delete it, which is absurd. You're just, like, deleting people's content for, like, it doesn't even tell you why. And same thing happened on Reddit, where I was posting about censorship in World of Warcraft. Just immediately got deleted. No mod message or anything. Spam, it'll delete it again, right? The very fact that it didn't is a pretty good indicator that it's not actually seen as spam and someone manually deleted it. And it wasn't me. It wasn't me, so you guys literally saw it live when I tried editing it. It basically didn't allow me because the comment was removed already. Yeah. So I don't know. I don't know, guys. Just you know, whatever. Fucking crazy. I have like... What do you even call this? Senate Armed Service hearing. Arrow's Senate UAP hearing. Dude, all this shit is super hard to, like, they put the date in the title. Starship Launch 6 and Arrow Senate UAP hearing on 11/19. Yeah. we need arrow inception. Yeah. Let's see. Alrighty, guys. Good evening.
And develop robust.
Senator Ernst for her.
Why is this 2 hours, guys? Okay, I need to take a piss, guys, real quick. I will be right back and grab water, too. 1 second. You know what that lady reminds me of, guys? She reminds me of Dolores Umbridge from Harry Potter, who's there to make sure that people conform to what they're supposed to be saying and the proper etiquette of a modern individual, right? Dude, you couldn't make this shit up if you wanted to. You couldn't legit make this shit up if you wanted to. That literally straight up just looks like his handler. And once again, as we were talking about before, the reason that you have your handler or someone like that sit next to you is to make sure that you don't ever get the idea that you're going to do something, rash, right? And the weird thing about this is, yeah, like in domestic relationships, if there's a domestic abuse case, you try to separate the two individuals so someone can, express themselves without feeling like they're under the gun. I swear to God, this literally looks like a codependent relationship with an abusive individual that is suppressing the other individual and making sure he doesn't get out of hand. Yeah, it just like, and there's other people that also noticed that lady was sitting there, right? Yeah, in the comments. Yeah, and she looks like she's trying to hide it. Like she has a what do you call that? stoic face, right? Where she just, like, kind of unreactive to everything. You can tell, based on her eyes, she's slowly starting to smirk as this is going on. And then at the end, she cracks a smile right at the end when this ends. This is 100% this guy's handler. This is 100% this guy's handler. I didn't even know anything about her, and apparently she's part of the Department of Defense. Yeah. 100% this guy's fucking handler. Straight up. Fucking crazy. Also, how does no one on Twitch care about this shit? I don't fucking know. This is literally happening inside the government. Like, this isn't just a random YouTube video. This is the Congress. Well, this is part of Congress. This is the Senate, right? This is the fucking Senate. What the fuck? Oh. Also, why does it have live in the title? It's not live anymore. Best coverage was literally ABC. There's a lot of shitty versions of this. Oh, hey, look, my other video got 6 views. Like, even my shit videos get more than 6 views. How the fuck did it only get 6? Huh. Even my other videos, guys, get more than 6 views. It's because I put Immaculate Constellation in the video. Also, no mention in any way, shape, or form of Immaculate Constellation here, guys. Oh, maybe put it in the wrong area? Fucking hate the censorship era, guys. Absolutely hate the censorship era. Just fucking censor everything. I think I put the last one in news. put it under education. All right, well, let's try that one. Wait, I actually had a comment on my video, didn't I? It's showing 0 comments. Oh, no, that might be... comment on a video. On the video that I made. Okay, well, let's try that. Okay. Okay. What time is it? Alright, well, we aren't going to have time for games tonight, guys. I didn't actually think this was going to be a big deal. I thought it's only 30 minutes long, and I didn't think it was going to take too long, but Starship was like a bit, and then this is also something. This looked so scripted. You had no shit. Just how you script a speech for class. No? No? If you have a hearing, you can talk about a bunch of things, and they can ask you questions. Also, is my comment deleted? Not deleted yet, guys. Okay. We're going to call things here for this evening, guys. Tonight, we're going to be more Overwatch 2, guys. We're going to be continuing on playing, getting better, as well as maybe doing ranked. I don't know what I'm going to do yet for ranked or... if we're going to do ranked, I would probably maybe do ranked, maybe do tanked and ranked, and see where that goes. But yeah. Yeah. We're going to call things here for this evening, guys. Tonight, it's going to be more Overwatch 2. If you are new to the stream, enjoy the bullshit, enjoy the fun, you enjoy the tinfoil hat commentary, make sure you hit the follow button on your select platform. I stream to Kick, Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, Trovo, as well as TikTok every day. From late night to early morning, GMT-6, so late night North America time. I usually stream for about 5 to 6 hours, give or take. Depends on my life, what's happening, etc., guys. We're out of here for this evening, guys. Tonight will be the OW2s. Alrighty, guys. Anyways, thanks for watching my stream as always, and I hope you guys have a wonderfully fantastic Tuesday night and Wednesday morning. Have a good day, guys.